wait has been long, but the wait is finally over. We are about to find out what the Hornets are going to do with the biggest decision they've had maybe in their franchise's history, and we're going to do it live here on YouTube.com. This is the Locked On Hornets podcast. Let's do it.
We're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
And this is the Locked On Hornets Live Draft Special 2023. I'm Doug Branson, co-host of the Locked On Hornets podcast. I'm typically joined by the host of the Locked On Hornets podcast, Walker Mehl. He is currently on WFNZ duty, but don't you worry, folks. He is very represented on this show here in the Kelly Tripucka jersey bobblehead. So he's on the show. He has to agree with everything I say on this show.
Just nodding.
Yes, man. This is perfect.
This is awesome.
Yeah. This is amazing. He gets to answer every question that I have in the affirmative. I'm also joined by a great cast of characters here. I'm alongside the Sultan of Sneakers. He's a former co-host of the podcast. He's a sneakerhead. You know him. He is David Walker. David, where is your Scoot Henderson confidence meter as we sit here at 7 p.m., an hour before the NBA draft?
Yeah, I got to say, it's holding strong.
Okay, then.
It's flipped a couple times.
Then.
It seems to be flipping every time Vegas flips, but for right now, I'm holding strong.
Flippity flip.
That's right.
Oh, all right.
I'm also joined by another former co-host of the podcast. He's family. He's on the Eye on College Basketball podcast. He produces it. He is our college basketball expert on this podcast. He is Nata Edwards. Nata, I know you know college basketball, but I also know you, more than anyone that I know, has their finger on the pulse of this Charlotte Hornets fan base on social media. If the Hornets trade this pick tonight, Nata, what will their reaction be?
I'm not going to say what the reaction is going to be. All I know is I'm just going to delete my account.
Okay.
Like 5 seconds in.
Wow.
I'm just going to delete the account.
I think we all need a break. I've been on Twitter nonstop.
Yes, we all need
it's time for a break.
We all need to touch grass and go somewhere else.
Well, Locked On Hornets is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making Locked On Hornets your first listen every day. We are free and daily wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube, where we are live right now, and we're going to be live through an hour after this pick gets made. Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller, who's it going to be? I've already been perusing the YouTube chat. You guys are all over it already. I saw someone named Sam that had a profile picture that was just a black dot say that they've talked to MJ and they've informed him that the pick is going to be Brandon Miller. So you heard it here first. Insider information.
News.
Sam on YouTube has talked to Michael Jordan.
It's as good as anything we've gotten, guys.
Right. No, that's as good as anything we've gotten from Phony Gavoni, from Kevin O'Con, from Wacky Woj. I mean, you can't trust any of this stuff. Now, you can trust Shams, I think, because Shams had some good info on
Scoot.
That's the one guy you guys can trust if you like Scoot.
Now, if you're watching this right now, you're going to notice we are in some really nice digs. We're coming to you from the Everybody Studios in Charlotte, North Carolina, the premier creative studio for audio, video, and podcast projects. Everybody Studios is a production company that creates fresh, high-quality, engaging podcasts for businesses, organizations, and individuals. They know that podcasting is a powerful medium that can be used as a highly effective and efficient marketing tool to connect with audiences, share stories, and build relationships. Their mission is to help clients create and produce podcasts that achieve their personal and marketing goals and make a positive impact on the Charlotte community. Visit everybodystudios.com. That's EVRYBDY studios.com. One more time, EVRYBDY studios.com. So I think the decision is obviously Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller. What's it going to be? David, do you have the latest for us? What's Woj tweeting? What's Shams tweeting? What's the latest intel on this pick?
Yeah, we're trying to keep up with this, and our buddy Sean Hyken, who has some skin in the game on this one, who has done Blazers reporting for many years.
The Rose Garden Report.
That's right. He's saying Woj is tripling down, saying Charlotte is steadfast with Brandon Miller. So this is the other angle we've got on this draft. I mean, I'm sure we've seen it in the past, but I don't remember Woj and Shams going head to head.
This is true. Like, this has been one of those, like, no, you're right, I'm right. It's like grumpy old men, except Shams is like our age. So there's that part. But a lot of this does feel like very territorial. And I think we got to establish that, you know what? No one knows anything.
We should get
The
into
Hornets
that.
aren't saying anything to anybody. Everything you're hearing right now is from either one of two camps, the Brandon Miller camp or the Scoot Henderson camp. Those are the only two people that are saying anything at this point. And if you believe like one of those, okay, cool. But just know that the Hornets haven't officially made anything official yet until about 8:20.
Right. And so instead of speculating on, what the Hornets are going to do, I think we should just dive a little deeper into Scoot Henderson, into Brandon Miller, what their games are all about, what the Hornets need in this draft. We're going to talk about the 27th pick as well. I am going to tell you, we did have a prop budget for this show. And so
Oh, no.
I bought
did you
a
do?
little something to celebrate whatever the
good
pick's
Lord.
going to be. So if it's Brandon Miller, we've got a little Miller Lite.
Light.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
crack that open if it's Brandon Miller.
We have to share that one.
We got to share that?
Yeah, no, Sipsies all around. Exactly. Yeah, it's going to be like chain
What
drinking.
was the budget? $5?
Have you watched the show? Of course it was $5.
Okay.
So also, if we draft Scoot, of course we break the champagne.
Wait,
out.
hold up. I thought there was supposed to be some kind of balance in this and everything else like that.
No balance. This is not fair or balanced. This is our show, and we do whatever we want to. You know that.
Sure.
And it hasn't been balanced, by the way, from the fan base either. I put another poll on YouTube earlier today asking, is it Scoot? Is it Brandon? Who is the best player available? And last time I looked, there were over 300 votes on that poll, and 77% of people think that Scoot Henderson is the best player available. And so I think we start there with Scoot Henderson. David, do you believe that Scoot Henderson is the best player available among him and Brandon Miller? And why do you believe that?
Yeah, I like Scoot more, and I like Brandon Miller too as well. But I do think Scoot has the higher ceiling. I think he jumps off the page at you a little bit more. Has to work on the shot, but to me, has fewer things that he's got to continue to work on in the NBA than does Brandon Miller. But Miller gives you the shooting, right?
Yeah,
I mean, shooting goes a long way. That should not be devalued, especially in this day and age. Our guy, my guy, Pat Riley, to you guys.
Yeah, yes.
Now,
down
Coach Riley, show him some respect. This is
Exactly.
absurd.
down in Miami, he basically said as much. They're looking. Every team in the league is looking for a guy like Brandon Miller, 6'9" guy, can defend, can get on the wing, and brings that scoring. So I still like Scoot. I think he is, by all accounts and all the folks that have been watching him, somewhat of a generational talent. If he can dial in the shooting, that will be the last phase of his game. But guys, this is the draft. This is the NBA draft, and there's still question marks for both of them. If you're in the Hornets position, I still think the intangibles that Scoot brings in the locker room, being a leader, his business-like approach, gives him the edge for me, along with all the other stuff.
Okay, Troy on the chat saying, Doug, show us your Scoot tattoo. I can't. YouTube
geez.
would block this video if I showed you where I have
dear.
my Scoot toot. And
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Steven on the chat saying, Coach Riley, sir.
Guys, listen, I don't know what to tell you. Streets of Charlotte, Pat, I got a hello, and he asked me for directions. So I feel like we're close.
And Thousand Eyes 85 says, I think Miller will surprise y'all. This actually is one of the more balanced panels that we have on this show, or that we've had on this show.
we have
through this,
one Brandon Miller.
Because we have just one single person
Wait,
who
hold
likes
on,
Brandon Miller.
Hold on.
Over. Oh, I say we all like Brandon Miller, but he likes Brandon. I think you like. Is it fair to say? I won't put words in your mouth. Is it fair to say you like Brandon Miller over Scoot Henderson?
No.
Okay.
That is, see, here's
Sorry,
the
guys.
thing.
Then your Twitter is. I think your Twitter doesn't represent how you feel. Then are you two different people? Are you one person in real life and one person on Twitter? Don't
Who
tell me
would
that.
do that? No, come on.
No. But here's the thing, and I want to establish this. I don't know, but the thing that I have basically been trying to say for at least the last 72 hours is everybody I've talked to either thinks they're on the same tier, they are equally talented. There are things that I do worry about with Scoot. The defense thing, like having those two, LaMelo Ball, who really doesn't necessarily care about defense, and then you have Scoot Henderson that really showed that he really didn't care either. Like,
Well, I think that's unfair. I don't think he showed that he didn't care. I mean, I think that there were plays that you could point to that say, hey, he wasn't like 100% committed, but there were also moments when, he was a steal machine. He was using those long arms to his advantage. I keep saying this, his block timing is incredible. It makes up for the fact that he might be on the shorter end of what you would want out of a guard in the modern NBA. His timing on blocks is amazing. And I think once he makes that jump, once the games, this is, for Scoot Henderson, this has always been the end game. Now, he may have taken a slightly different path than Brandon Miller, but this has always been the end game for Scoot. He always knew he would get here. And once he gets here, I think he turns everything up to 11. And honestly, I think more so than Brandon Miller, Scoot is going to raise everyone's level of intensity. When a guy like that steps on the court and into the locker room and starts screaming after he makes his first mid-range shot, like Scoot did in that game against Victor Wembanyama, that gets everybody hyped. That's why I love Scoot.
Now, would you say, because he kind of has gone his own path, this could be the new way to do it. Would you say he's been a trailblazer?
No, I would not say that. I don't you dare say that. Not yet, anyway. Don't you dare say that.
But to Doug's point, that is the thing that I was kind of putting out there this week. I'm more surprised that hasn't gotten more traction just within the talks, right? Like, because to us, Charlotte has needed somebody in that locker room who is a culture changer, who is a leader. Now, yes, he's 19 years old. That's some of the blowback I got. I get that, but this is
it's
also
a young team. It's a young team,
and
nobody stepped up. No, if somebody, I'm sorry, I'm stealing your point. Go ahead.
No, Walker. I know how Walker feels.
Nice.
I'm excited. This is great.
Right,
Look at what we're doing here.
It's there for the taking. And it seems like from everything we know about Scoot, right? And on some level, we just don't know as much about Brandon Miller because Scoot's had the articles out.
Scoot's had the PR team.
Yeah.
Like, let's be fair here. The PR team has done wonders for Scoot Henderson, and he's talked to basically everybody except you guys.
Okay, but it's not just that Scoot had the
Scoot,
PR
what the
team.
Heck? Scoot, we're right here.
Where were you, Scoot? I keep trying to call your phone, and you keep changing your number. No, Scoot has the PR team, but also Scoot had the opportunities to have PR because of Brandon Miller's off-the-court situation, because anytime he got in front of cameras, the rare times that he was in front of cameras, he had to say, I can't talk about that. And it looks bad to say I can't talk about that, and then he has to move on to something else. And so I think you finally saw a little bit of Brandon Miller's personality come out in that NBA combine, and he kind of steps in it by saying that Paul George is his goat.
And
but
calling
everyone,
Michael Jordan old. I mean, it was a bold strategy.
Listen,
It's a great strategy
We'll
if
see
you
if
really
it
want to
works
annoy
out.
him.
we'll see if it works out. But we're going to dive deep into Brandon Miller. We're going to talk more about Scoot Henderson on this show as well. But I want to take a step back and just talk about the draft from a 30,000-foot perspective. The Hornets have a lot of picks in this draft. Okay, it's not just number 2. They've got number 27. We've got a 27 big board that we'll get to a little bit later. And they've got a ton of second-round picks. We know Mitchie loves his second-round picks. I don't know if Mitch is not long for this team, I wonder if we're going to go back to that Rich Cho era of Rich Cho hated second-round picks, despised them, got rid of them at all costs, and then it flipped when Mitch Kupchak came in. We've got 3 of them now, 34 that they got via Philadelphia and Atlanta, 39 from Utah via New York, and 41 from Oklahoma City via New York and Boston. Now, Mitch Kupchak, in his press conference before this draft, did say that they might not use all of those picks, and that would be very Kupchakian. He likes to package picks for other picks. Sometimes he likes to package picks for worse picks for some reason. I don't know why he does that, but sometimes he does that. So
maybe we'll find out tonight.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
That
We'll
27th pick.
We'll see some movement, and I think it brings me to I don't know if this is a bold take. I don't know if it's a not so
Let
bold
me hear
take.
this one.
But I think if I had one prediction to make, because I don't know what the heck they're going to do with this second pick, but one prediction would be I think they find a way to package some of these picks and Terry Rozier to a team to move off the contract, and especially if the decision is Scoot. Like if that news breaks before the second round, the second overall pick, then I think it's absolutely going to be Scoot because you're making room. But even if they take Miller, I think there's room to deal and clear up the books a little bit, because here's the thing, they might need to make some moves this offseason. This is not just draft and you're done. It could be draft and then make some free agency moves. It hasn't been very like Mitch Kupchak, but hey, there's an ownership change. You never know. And it would start with moving that contract.
I think I absolutely agree with you. And it's kind of why I think there's been so much secrecy, because there are so many things that are tied to this pick. no matter who you're drafting, you still have to make a decision on Oubre, who looks like he's out. You still have to make a decision on PJ Washington, who looks like he's in. Gordon Hayward's in the final year of his deal. If you can move Terry Rozier, it kind of helps you to do that, especially since you still need to figure out what do you have in Bouknight, what do you have in Bryce McGowan's, who looks yoked right now. I mean,
Who doesn't?
We're already in that season.
He does though.
We're already in that season.
We're in muscle watch.
We got that so early. We haven't even gotten through that. We cannot be in muscle watch until we get through the draft. Like,
Why not?
What are we doing? I don't.
Hold on. They put the picture out. I can't help it if the Hornets put the picture out. I have to comment on it.
There's so
now.
much projection.
Everybody gets mad when they don't put pictures out. Then
Exactly.
they put the picture out.
But there's so much projection on here. We want Bryce McGowan's to be stronger, and I think he will be. But I don't think we need to jump to muscle watch until we get through the draft. Let's talk about draft needs for a second.
Yeah.
What are the Hornets? And I'm not just talking about the second overall selection. When the Hornets leave this draft, what would you be satisfied with? And maybe it's a trade, but what are some of the qualities of players, whether it be, again, veterans or people that they take in this draft? What do you want the Hornets to leave with? What do they need in this draft, David?
I mean, I'd like to see them to continue to add some depth and some defenders on the wing. They started to build through that, and they've got a couple guys in, depending on where you put Thor, Kai Jones, some guys they're still trying to work out, but they're dependent on Cody Martin to come back healthy. But that's kind of it. Miles, you got PJ, but they could certainly fill out some of the depth on the wing there. And there's some guys in the draft that I think could do that for him.
I think draft needs. I'd kind of like to see another big to at least push Kai to make sure that he competes for this third center job. I don't think he's going to do as much Greensboro back and forth. I would love to see a James Najee here. I would love to see a Noah Clowney here to push them. I would love to see another wing defender or two. And quite honestly, if G.G. Jackson is there at 41, I kind of want them to take the swing, because worst case scenario, if he misses, it's the 41st pick in the draft. No big deal, no harm, no foul.
I'm seeing a lot of news right now that is about Scoot Henderson. It looks like the Slam Ball Rumble wants Scoot Henderson. A lot of people saying that they're going to get Scoot Henderson. We'll keep an eye on this Slam Ball coming back to ESPN. I think if there's one player you want on a Slam Ball team, it's Scoot Henderson. Strong, high flyer already, but imagine him on a trampoline. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. It's too great. Okay,
Doug, hold on. I know you have been long wanting some more point guard depth. Is that your one area you'd like to see? Because that was another one for me. Like, if they go Scoot, you obviously got it. If they don't, then you got to kind of fill in maybe.
How do you guys feel about a Marcus Sasser here?
Oh yeah, he's one of my names for sure. I think he would.
One of the names that I would have loved to see, he was dealing with some injuries there at the end, tournament wise. I would have loved to see what he could have done in those big pressure situations, but unfortunately he wasn't kind of able to show what he could do. So and that went for a lot of those players.
Yeah.
Like
Houston got ravaged at the end where it was only Jarris left.
I know, but Sasser is an interesting name. You're right. I think point guard depth. I think center depth still. I know they signed Nick Richards. I know we're comfortable with Mark Williams, but those are two young guys, and I think you ought to still. I know Kai Jones is still in the mix too, but I think you still need to, if there's an opportunity, especially in the second round. I think a lot of the bigs seem to be falling kind of late in the first round and maybe early in the second round, where the Hornets have a number of picks. I think they could look to upgrade that big depth if they want to. But the point guard situation, I think, is interesting because you do have Dennis Smith Jr. still sitting out there. And I saw a report from Michael Scotto that the Hornets are interested in retaining or bringing back Miles Bridges, retaining P.J. Washington, and Dennis Smith Jr.
I mean, new ownership is probably a mandate from new ownership anyway, though.
Yeah. Hey, all those players that have done well in the past, let's bring those players back. That might be a great idea. Okay, there's a question that we have to address. I don't want to address it. We've addressed it a lot over the past couple of weeks, but it is coming up in the chat over and over, so we would be remiss if we don't talk about it. And I don't think it's going to get talked a lot. They won't talk to it in some of the national shows. And it's this question. If the Hornets draft Scoot Henderson, does that mean the end of LaMelo Ball in Charlotte? I think it's ridiculous. I think it's a ridiculous question. But we have to answer because a lot of people are asking it on the chat. So, deal
I'm
with it.
surprised you didn't laugh at that out loud too. Like you would have I thought you would have had some bit to make fun of it, to skewer it, Doug. I thought you wouldn't have given it any oxygen.
Well, let's go to Walker. Walker, do you think that Scoot Henderson means the end of LaMelo Ball in Charlotte? Oh wow, yes.
Oh, wow.
Walker said
yes.
Walker
Wow.
nodding his head. Yes, wow. That's Walker Mehl on Twitter. If you feel differently, definitely let him know. He's at Thomas Davis's bar doing Wesson Walker, a special edition of Wesson Walker pre-draft. So we are going head to head right now. So,
Boy.
it's getting saucy.
Shams, Woj, us, Walker. I mean,
know.
this is
3-on-1, yeah.
But I will say this: if Scoot were the pick, and at some point down the line that decision would have to be made, we've seen it been made before.
Yes.
The Kings just kind of went through that. Both these players would still have tremendous value.
Yes.
In a point guard, in a guard-driven league, 2 point guards who can get things done and make people better. So, that's just maybe perhaps another reason if you want to throw one into the Scoot column why he'd be a good addition. But I think together they would be hell on wheels coming at any other team on the fast break, or they'd pose a lot of problems for other teams on defense.
I don't disagree with that, but the question I ask anyone for this backcourt is how much more effective does LaMelo Ball get with the ball out of his hands? Maybe 5%, 10% less. Does that make the team better overall, or are you kind of like stunting both of their growths by doing this? That's the thing that I worry about the most with a Scoot LaMelo backcourt is at some point one of those guys is going to have to be the alpha.
Yeah.
And at this point, now granted, the way it looks, it may end up being Scoot, but LaMelo has shown to be this all-world point guard. I kind of worry about transitioning him from that to almost a Luka Doncic role kind of worries me a little bit.
We've seen LaMelo play off ball.
True.
And it's been really, really good, right? So I think there's that factor. I also think this. If LaMelo leaves Charlotte, there are going to be a number of factors that play in that decision. It's not going to be solely because of whatever happens with Scoot. And here's the thing. If it comes down to Scoot and LaMelo and one's got to go, then the Charlotte Hornets can make that decision at that time, and they're going to keep the best player. People keep pointing to this Sacramento Kings situation, right?
Where you got the bonus out of it, though.
That's
Right.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When you draft the best player and that player plays well, even if the team isn't reaching their max potential because it's taking a little bit away from both players, then you fix that. But you can fix that because all of a sudden you have a player that is a valuable commodity on the NBA market, and you can then get your team where it needs to be. That's what Sacramento did. When you get into this weird kind of fit thing, that's when you run into trouble because and the Hornets have done that in the past, and they've ended up with substandard talent. If they go with Miller, I hope it's because, again, they've seen something that we haven't seen because they won't show it to us and they won't put them on camera. But I hope that they've seen something that we haven't seen that indicates to them that Brandon Miller is not headed for Paul George. He's not headed for Brandon Ingram, but he is heading towards that Jason Tatum ceiling where it's like, hey, this guy can get us to an NBA Finals at least. You can get in the conversation, and then you got to worry about can he take you over the hump. But, I mean, we would love the hump at this point. You can quote me on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this back and forth, this draft, a couple weeks, it feels like months. But
Years.
It's been insane.
Yeah.
And one of the things I didn't like about the discourse, there was a lot not to like about it, or that just got irritating. But one of the reasons people did not like the LaMelo and Scoot potential fit was them guessing how LaMelo would react to that. And I always looked at that like, I haven't seen anything from LaMelo since he's been here that says anything other than he just wants to win.
And that's fair. Like literally, he deals with Terry Rozier, who takes up a lot of usage,
Right.
undersized guy that can shoot but really can't defend, and has like LaMelo's worked with that. Scoot's not going to be the issue. And it goes back to something that Doug just said. If you're going to take Brandon Miller, you're taking it because he's a superior talent. I think the problem this is the main concern I have with a Brandon Miller, it's going to take some time for him to be effective. He needs 2 years minimum strength training because 90% of his issues, the low field goal percentage at the rim, a lot of his dribbling issues, a lot of that is he's not strong enough to keep his man off of him. So you're talking about a guy that for at least the first year and a half is probably going to end up being your designated perimeter shooter. Now, that being said, he's automatically number 1 or number 2 in terms of your shooters on this roster if he's drafted. So he does fix an immediate need. But if you're talking about being the Tatum long term, that's not coming for at least 2 years.
Part of me feels like Brandon Miller came into that second workout and just absolutely set the Nets on fire. Like some like Curry level, I was listening to a podcast, I think it was a Ringer podcast, and it talked about, this, it was Basketball Illuminati. They were talking about Scoot's workouts with Steph Curry. And Steph Curry would start the workout and they would do like a shoot till shoot till you miss. And Curry would hit 60 in a row. And Scoot
after not having played
Steph
for
would
like
hit
2
60.
weeks.
Right. Steph would hit 60 in a row. Scoot would then like shoot 5 and miss 1 and just be like, what? And trainers had to tell him, Steph's been doing this a while, right?
Yeah.
But I just feel like Brandon, I have a sneaking suspicion that Brandon came into that second workout and just shot the Nets on fire. And if you listen to like Jay Billis, who has been hyping up Brandon Miller a lot, he really goes to the shooting piece. And there's no doubt everyone needs shooting. The Hornets didn't shoot the ball well last year. There's a little context to that because they had a lot of injuries 2 years ago. They shot it pretty well from 3. They're going to add some more talent from long range. You would have to think they're going to replace Kelly Oubre maybe with some additional shooting as well.
Julian Strawther comes to mind.
Right, so that's another possible second round option or late first round. So we'll have to see. In a few minutes, we're going to talk to Nick Carboni from WCNC. He is not phony Carboni. He's the real deal, and he's at the cable box. He is at Spectrum Center right now, so he's going to give us some live reporting. I mean, how lucky are we to get a little CNC love from Carboni? It's going to be great. But first, I got to tell you about a company that has been with us for a good while now, and they're a great company. It's Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs, their shorts make you look good. They make even me look good. And I'm going to tell you something. I love my body. I don't think there's anything wrong with my body. But I don't have much of a booty. I'm going to admit it on this podcast. I don't have a lot of booty. But Bird Dogs makes my booty look good. Bird Dogs stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and the leg, giving a truly sculpted look. Bird Dogs shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but they fit way better. They fit way better than regular shorts that are made of a stiff, restricting cotton. Bird Dogs fixed this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khakis, but it stretches so you get that way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. And as you'll look, I'm sitting for this podcast, but as you know, I stand a lot for the podcast. I need that movement. It gets the blood flowing, and I need my Bird Dogs so that I get all of that movement. Bird Dogs uses an anti-stink sweat wicking fabric. That's fun to say. Anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti-style tumbler. You don't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. A lot more to get to. We're going to get to Nick in just a moment. We also have to talk about this 27th pick. I just fire off some names to me right now. If they keep the 27th. Actually, let's start there. Before we start firing off names and getting all excited about the possibility of maybe Jaime Jaquez Jr. falling somehow to 27, or, what are some other names? City Sissoko. I mean, there Leonard Miller. I mean, there are a lot of exciting names there at 27. But before we get excited, what do you think the odds are that the Hornets actually keep this 27th pick?
Low. For me, we already know that they have a lot of needs and a lot of people on this roster as it is. It feels like it's easier to trade off 27 and then sign the 3 second-rounders to two-way contracts, similar to a Bryce McGowan's. That way it maximizes your roster flexibility. So I feel like 27 has been gone for a while now. It's just a matter of if they keep it, depending on who falls down. If that's a Dariq Whitehead, if that's a Leonard Miller, maybe even a Jet Howard, who's not really supposed to be there.
Right.
Guys like that, it makes a lot more sense to keep the pick, but I feel like it's a low probability that they actually keep this pick.
Okay, David, hold your thought on that. I know you've got something extremely smart to say. You've got a huge brain. People don't know this, but his brain actually reaches up halfway to the poof in his hair, right? It's like the forehead doesn't stop; it just keeps going, and it's
so he's got intelligence by osmosis.
That's what I'm saying. So speaking of someone who is highly intelligent, much more intelligent than we are, it's Nick Carboni from WCNC. He is at the Spectrum Center right now, where I imagine people are just raging right now, trying to figure out who is going to be the pick. Is it going to be Scoot Henderson? Is it going to be Brandon Miller? Nick, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. You'd take that back what you said about my intelligence if you saw me trying to dial into the show. It was not pretty, but I'm here.
Beep, boop. Okay, well, we're glad you're here. Nick, tell us, what's the scene like at Spectrum Center right now?
Well, I'm kind of walking as close as I can to the floor to give you guys a bit of an audio experience without having to be too loud. But there's a decent amount of fans. I mean, there's a lot of fans in the lower bowl at Spectrum Center right now. We've got a big party going on the court. I see Dell. I see Muggsy. There's a good amount of fans here. So I'm really excited to see what their reaction's going to be when that second pick comes in. We're certainly going to capture that because, it could be a house divided when that happens.
Well, where's your head at on this pick right now, Nick? I want you to take the reporter hat off for a second and just give me, your basketball scouting hat. You've had an opportunity to look at these two guys. You've seen a little. I know you're not like, Mr. Ultra Scout guy, but I'm sure you've watched some tape. I mean, what do you think right now, Scoot, Brandon? What do you think would be the better pick for the Hornets at this point?
Yeah, and it's also who you get a sense of. When I always love, like in the Panthers pre-draft process and the Hornets, watching interviews with some of these guys and seeing how they come across and seeing kind of what makes them tick. And to me, that's the difference between drafting Scoot Henderson, which I would, and drafting Brandon Miller. I think Scoot's got this extra gear to him, this extra competitiveness, this extra leadership quality that this team could really use regardless of position. And then you go and you just look at some of the G League highlights, the workouts that we have been able to see, especially Portland. I kind of reviewed that one. I mean, the guy is so explosive and athletic. He's got a mid-range jumper. Don't we all think and know he can extend that out at some point and be at least a threat? Plus, if you bring him in here, LaMelo is shooting 38% from three, which none of us thought would happen. And he's 3 years in his career, so I think that's what he is at this point, and that's great. And so that's how they can play off of each other. So if you can't tell, yes, I would pick Scoot Henderson. And putting my reporter hat back on, I am not as convinced as some are that it is going to be Brandon Miller tonight. I really haven't been, because the Hornets haven't. They are not responsible for any of this information. I'm convinced of that, because Lord knows we've all tried. So listen, it could be Brandon Miller. I think Woj is still kind of pounding that. But I'm just not convinced we're not going to hear Scoot Henderson tonight. We'll see what happens. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but when everything comes out, when the trade rumors come out and all that, and the odds are shifting, I know that's not from the Hornets. I know it's not from this building. So that to me means it's a toss-up going into this pick.
Yeah, Nick, you've been following this all along, as we have, and it's been a roller coaster ride with really one kernel that snowballed out of control. It seemed like. Do you have any explanation for how that happened? Because to your point, the Hornets doesn't seem like they leak anything, but it really took on a life of its own, especially in the last 48 hours. Do you contribute that to anything, or just noise?
Well, it's funny because we weren't at the workouts. Nobody was. Nobody outside of the organization were at the workouts, and that seems to be where there would be, okay, well, the workout went like this, or the workout went like that, and Brandon Miller came in and he did this his second go round. I don't think that's coming from the team. I think that's coming from agents and perhaps other sources, but I just don't read too much into what happened at those workouts. And we know that those workouts apparently are vitally important to Mitch Kupchak and obviously Michael Jordan as well. So it seemed to be centered around the workouts and how those went, because it lended itself to that, because there was so much mystery around them, because nobody was allowed in the building for them, and they're one of the only teams that did it that way.
Now, Nick, one thing that I know you probably were there for, but Mitch's presser yesterday, it was kind of unclear who's actually making that decision, because it seemed like at first it was, Michael's making the decision. oh, now it's me. I have input. Mitch said it was me. Who do you think is actually making this final decision for this pick?
Yeah, let me give you exact quotes in order. First, it was, I'm making the pick. That was Mitch Kupchak.
Okay.
Several minutes later, Michael has final say. So, I think looking at all of the quotes, looking at the transcript, listening to it again, a couple times in there, Mitch does say, we talk extensively about it. Michael defers to me in the end. And that they agree, according to Mitch Kupchak, they agree more than they disagree on player evaluation. Now, the track record between, before Mitch was here and after would not lend you to believe that, but that's what he said. So I do think Mitch Kupchak ultimately is making the pick. But, what's he going to do if Michael Jordan is hell-bent on picking one guy over another? I mean, it's Michael Jordan. He's the greatest of all time, and he still owns this basketball team tonight. So, I think it's Mitch Kupchak because he's the one putting in all the work. We all know Michael hasn't been around as much lately and, had to kind of fly back in just to see that final workout. So Mitch has done all the legwork. I would hope Jordan would defer to him in the end. And according to Mitch Kupchak, that's kind of how it's going to work. Nick,
I need to know, what does your reporter hat look like? What are we working with here?
Yeah, it's goofy as hell.
Okay.
I can't. That's all I can say.
Well, is it great? Well, is
it
Grady Dick draft uniform goofy? Like, I mean, are we talking sequins?
Does he look like that? Have you guys seen the memes with him and what's the guy from Righteous Gemstones?
BJ.
I mean, it's perfect.
BJ, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Okay, well,
absolutely fantastic.
I want you. I've got an assignment for you. If you're brave enough,
Okay.
I want you to take your reporter hat off. I want you to put your TV personality hat on, and I want you to walk around Spectrum Center. And I'd like you to ask people's opinion on who they think the Hornets should take at not number 2, but number 27. And a lot of people aren't going to know.
41.
Right, 41.
41's
Even better. 41. Okay, we're workshopping this. We're getting there, though. Okay, 41, but people are not going to know the names. So I would like you to help them out and feed them names of former vice presidents. I need you to,
names, okay.
No, not fictional. I want you to feed them names of vice presidents.
Okay.
Say, listen, who do you like better, Levi Morton or Charles Fairbanks?
Oh, jeez.
Or, if you really want to throw a wrench into it, have you guys been scouting Dan Quayle at all in the pre-draft process? He's fantastic.
That's right. Can't listen.
You might get that too.
He probably played at Ignite because we know, he couldn't spell well. He's not necessarily, somebody that was made for college. Wow. So, ask about Garrett Hobart's wingspan. That's what I would like you to do. And see what you come up with. So, listen, I'm sorry.
That's not bad.
I'm sorry for giving you homework, but listen, you chose to be on the show, and that's what this that's your choice. Okay. Thank you, Nick, for spending some time with us. We really appreciate it. Catch Nick on WCNC. He's going to have full reports on vice president names and who the Hornets select at number 2. Thanks, Nick.
It's going to be a tough one to explain to the boss, but anything for you guys. See you guys.
I like it. I think it's a great idea.
It is a great idea because no one really knows. Everybody does this YouTube scouting up until pick 32, 33. And then absolutely nobody knows.
Nobody knows, but the brilliance of all of those man on the street segments is that you always get someone who's like, oh, Charles Dawes, I love him. Great crossover, super athletic, can jump out of the gym, Charles Dawes. And then you reveal that, no, that was Calvin Coolidge's vice president.
Jeez.
Okay, we've got a lot to get to, including this 27th pick for real, because I know the people that are watching this podcast actually do care about that 27th pick and some of the second rounders. Because look, the Hornets have been able to utilize second rounders under the Kupchak era and actually turn those players into, I don't know if you would want to call them significant contributors, but I think any contribution you get, any serious minutes you get from a second round player is somewhat significant. So we want to get to those second round sleepers as well, but let's focus in on number 27. Okay. And I need to get back to David because we didn't get David's thoughts on whether they would actually keep the pick.
Oh yeah.
And then let's go to Nata with some names of some players that he'd like to see them actually take at number 27. So go, David.
Yeah, for some reason, I think they will keep the pick. I know they haven't done that in the past, but they brought in, 120 some odd players?
The most.
And they've emphasized how important this
Well,
offseason
hold
is.
on. So Mitch Kupchak said they
He
brought
said
in
120, but I think they put out like 107.
Right,
So they had some secret workouts.
secret Mitch Kupchak only workouts.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But and they're emphasizing how big this offseason is. And I think there's a lot of talent to be had at the end of that first round. So it wouldn't surprise me to take them. I think to make up for last year, maybe when they had 2 first-round draft picks and they didn't use one.
I can defend that one slightly, but I choose not to because we don't need to reopen old wounds.
Oh, no. We don't need to defend it. I'm just saying at some point it'd be nice to get 2 first-round draft picks.
I do think this is the closest that we're going to come to it. I think if a Jet Howard's there, again, Dariq Whitehead makes way too much sense at 27. Jet Howard. If Bryce Sensabaugh somehow makes it to 27, I think he's a guy you have to significantly just take a look at for that.
Go deeper on that. Explain Bryce Sensabaugh to me, because I look at him and I go, I don't know, what does he do well, and like what's like, could he really turn into an impact player? Because I look at the body and I go, I don't know if this is the kind of player that the Hornets, would be typically targeting with draft picks. Like, they haven't gone for, that kind of, I think, body shape. They've more looked for like the Jalen McDaniels, like the 6'9", lengthy, lean. Yeah. So explain to me what Bryce Sensabaugh is all about.
Bryce Sensabaugh is a bucket. Just to start this off, he was put in a horrible situation in Ohio State with Chris Holtmann. It was the Bel Air Academy offense, pass the ball to Bryce, and he has a lot of shots. He has a very inefficient game, but given the coaches here and the possibility of him getting shipped back and forth to Greensboro, he's going to get a lot of those flaws out of his game. For me, he is one of those diamond in the rough. I won't call like diet hardened feels like a little too much, but I think he can be a solid 6th, 7th man for a very long time that can automatically score. The rest of his game is going to need some polish. But if you're drafting him at 27 rather than, 17, 18, 19, you have a lot more time to develop and get those kinks out of his game until he's ready to go.
I need to do some cleanup here because I meant to say this at the top of the show. Some rules of the game here. When we do these live shows, this is how we've always done it. We don't wait on the broadcast as we approach. We're almost 15 minutes away from this broadcast on ESPN starting.
Absolutely.
We don't wait on the broadcast for the pick. If we get word on a trade from Shams or Woj, we're going to share that with you. So if you don't want things tipped, go away. I don't know what else to tell you. This is just how we do it. When we see something, we talk about it because we know the broadcasts are going to wait, and I know a majority of the audience actually just wants to hear about the information as we get it.
And they're on the phones with us.
That's right. So we've got, and speaking of that, we've got something new from Shams. This was just 5 minutes ago. Shams saying sources tell him that the Pelicans received a meeting in recent days with none other than Scoot Henderson. New Orleans has pursued a top 2-3 pick in the NBA draft, but both Charlotte and Portland are so far expressing no interest in moving the pick. Do you think that they're expressing no interest, or do you think that they're just not interested in what New Orleans is offering?
The latter. Yeah. I don't think Zion was ever offered. I don't think Ingram was ever offered. I think if Zion was offered, considering the ownership group, I think this deal is done. I think this was a lot of Trey Murphy, Jose Alvarado. This is closer to what Danny Ainge would offer for the pick rather than an actual fair offer.
Yeah, it felt like it had to be one of those two guys. And the weird thing about Zion is, like, if I'm New Orleans, they know him the best. Mm-hmm. And if they're willing to do that, if they're willing to part with a guy who is a top 10 player in the league, can make you a contender almost overnight, and he's 22 years old, and he's got an incentive-laden contract, if they're willing to part with that for somewhat of an unknown, even though good rookies, that gives me a little pause. But at the same time, I'm like, if I'm New Orleans, I'm not doing that.
No.
So
neither am I. The thing that I don't understand about – there's a lot of this that I don't understand is that we rushed to believe that Zion would be dealt in this. Now, granted, a lot of that probably had to do with his off-the-court happenings, and he might want to be out. But for the most part, I just don't think that Zion, a guy like Zion is actually going to be on the table for a number 2 pick that we may or may not know anything about. And again, I will continue to reiterate this. If Zion was actually at the table, does any of us think Michael Jordan sees that and says, you know what? No, thanks. I'm going to take the mystery box.
No.
Yeah, or new owners, right? I mean, that's a splash. That's a splash, and that's something we don't really know over the last 24 hours. I mean, Mitch Kupchak said, hey, they're going to have some sort of a voice yesterday in his presser. How much, we don't know. They're getting up to speed.
Yeah.
But all the time during today when, the odds were shifting up and down, people were theorizing that they had more of a voice, less of a voice. So we don't know, but that's certainly a splash. And new owner syndrome is a real thing. Yeah. Could still happen down the line, but it doesn't feel like Zion was ever a realistic opportunity.
Well, I think the lack of noise on a trade reinforces something that I believe, which is that this new ownership group is being consulted, just not on Scoot versus Brandon. I think they are going to defer to Michael. And Plotkin has been a part of this organization now for
exactly. His key card works.
Right. So, he has some influence. That's not ridiculous, but I think they're all going to defer to Michael as long as his key card is gold-plated and theirs is just a regular key card.
And Mitch and the people who've been doing the work, right? I mean, like I said, 120 some odd workouts. The new owners certainly haven't been involved in all those. They've had a group doing that work. I mean, that's what we theorized when the announcement was made that he was going to sell. Those people are still going to be, for the most part, making this pick and have done the work and presenting it to Michael. However you want to lay that relationship out, they're going to be the ones making the pick.
The problem with trading top 3 picks in the NBA draft is that there are only 2 rounds.
Yep.
And so it becomes difficult to put packages together, because if you're going to trade a number 2 pick or a number 3 pick or a number 1 pick, even in a non-Victor Wembanyama draft, if you're going to trade one of those top 3 picks, I think as a team, you have to be perceived as the winner. You want people saying this team won because they gave up the opportunity for the future piece that could be a superstar. And when you talk about draft needs, when you talk about team needs in general for the Charlotte Hornets, they need superstar talent. It's the one thing that this franchise has lacked, and it's the one thing that gets you to the finals. It's what got the Nuggets there. It's what got the Bucks there. You have to have superstar talent in this league. You can't have 3 all-stars. You got to have one player that can lift your boat in those playoff series that get really tough. They haven't had that, and so if you're going to give up that opportunity to find that, then you have to make sure that the return is mega.
Yeah, and I think that's why this has been so stressful for Hornets fans. They see the opportunity with Scoot. His ceiling is maybe superstar. It just hasn't. It's just been so dire here since it's come back, right? And it just has not had that feeling in so long. And this time, there will be no one to blame but themselves. Like in a lot of these draft picks, you could lay it off on a bad class or a bad fall or just bad luck or something that didn't work out. But this time, you basically have the first pick. You can choose whomever you want outside of Wembanyama to add to your team, and that's why people are holding on to this so tight.
I don't blame anybody for holding on to this very tight. I also would say, because I've talked to enough people, there is a gap. Everyone I've talked to has said there's a gap. Victor's by himself, clearly.
Yeah.
Scoot, Brandon, second class. Gap. Everybody else, the Thompson twins, Cam Whitmore. There's a lot of people that think that this class, the superstar class, stops at 3. And that's where I kind of want people to relax. I think this is a win-win situation. I know we're not used to that, but I do think no matter who the pick is going to be, they're going to be fine. They're going to be just fine. It's just going to be a issue of delayed gratification, if anything. Scoot may show up as soon as the jump shot shows up. Brandon Miller, once the functional strength shows up, he'll be fine. It's just one of those things, we just may have to wait on the delayed gratification part.
Well, I mean, I agree with that, and I think one of the reasons that I've been on the Scoot wagon is because when I shift my focus into the future, when I imagine these guys developing in the Hornets system, I ask myself a question, which is who has the easiest road to fix all of those issues and get to the place where they are a superstar talent? And I just think Scoot has the easier road to get there. I think the things that Brandon has to do, we were all honestly legitimately shocked when Jason Tatum did them. When he learned how to handle the basketball, we were like, oh, I mean, Jason Tatum was heading for where I think a lot of us fear that Brandon might head, which is into that sort of mushy middle of like, yeah, he's got a couple of all-stars, but he's not really threatening to be sort of that superstar talent. So it's handling the basketball. It is putting on the weight, which is always a danger when a guy comes in undersized, because you are betting. You're not only betting on the commitment, and I think from what I've read, I love Scoot's intensity and I love his commitment, but I think Brandon also has that same drive. He wants to be great. I think what has been a shame is because of the situation in Alabama, he has not had the opportunity to get out in front of cameras and tell his story. But I think from what I've read, this guy wants to be great just like Scoot. But when you're dealing with guys that are undersized, it's not just about their want to. Sometimes the bodies just don't happen. And then sometimes you get a Giannis where it surprisingly happens.
Well, Giannis, again, we got to remember, Giannis filled out because of poverty. Like, that dude was kind of undernourished, and then when he got to a place where he got 3 square meals a day, he grew into a physical freak. That may happen with Brandon Miller. That you get him into a NBA workout program where he puts on muscle. Again, we just saw what 1 year does for Bryce McGowan's. I think Brandon Miller needs 2 years in the strength training program, but I think that there are skills that translate immediately, necessary, just mainly the shot, but also the playmaking. I think those two things will work out in such a great manner early on. It's just, can we be patient for the superstar stuff?
Kevin man, is at it again, folks. Switching the mock draft for the second time today, going from Brandon to Scoot, and now back to Brandon. He is riding on the wings of shams at this point. Talk about a sham. This is unbelievable.
Well, the one thing that I will say concerns me from the need to put weight on area is LaMelo still needs to put on some weight if he can. I don't know.
That's one thing I wonder if new ownership and, how would I put this nicely, an investment into the strength training program
maybe
might actually fix that, because as we've heard, there are going to be new investments into the Hornets with this new ownership group. Maybe strength training is one of them, because I think it's kind of a theme right now where the strength training program has, I won't say failed, but it has merely disappointed a bunch of the young guys when it comes to the NBA program in Charlotte.
Carolina RN7 coming on the chat saying Miller will have an ankle or knee injury if he doesn't get big quick. Well, here's the thing. If he gets big too quick, then there's other injury concerns as well. Yeah, so, I mean, that's when I talk about the treacherous road that he may face, whereas I think Scoot is essentially fully formed and has been playing pro basketball for 2 years. That's just my argument. That's an argument. I've heard other great arguments for Brandon Miller. That's what makes this decision so difficult. I truly believe that the people in the war room are really being tested right now. They don't have a firm idea of what to do because this decision is so difficult. It's not cut and dry. You are making a bet. We have to remember that. Whatever this pick is, when we find out in a couple of minutes, they are making a bet. They are not making a right or wrong choice because so much of it is out of their hands. It becomes, the moment they make the pick, it becomes in Scoot's hands or it becomes in Brandon Miller. You are not betting on a basketball player. You are betting on a person. I think we have to remember that. In a few minutes, we are going to sort of shift our whole focus into covering the first few minutes of this draft. When we find out, we'll find out Victor Wembanyama goes 1, and then we got to figure out a whole nother thing when the Hornets select 2. Maybe they trade it. It's going to get super exciting. Before we go to break, though, I want to check in with the amazing crew that we have. Liz in the production booth right now. Liz, how you doing? Are you near a microphone?
Oh, man. I think you caught her off guard.
Oh, that's
We're doing great.
Okay. Well, no, I don't. I mean, that's good that you're doing great. I would actually like to know how we're doing. Can you give us a review of the show? I mean, I care about how you're doing, but I care more about how we're doing.
Y'all are doing awesome.
That's great. You know, Liz, by default, becomes the most skilled and talented person we've ever had on this show. It's been a rough road, but we've got some good people behind this show, and we're super excited about it. So, very quickly, before we go to break, have we, a very quick answer, yes or no, have we learned anything, and does anything pre-draft matter?
Oh, no, this was all a sham. this entire hour if you were with us. Thank you very much. But we didn't know anything.
You
more
can't
than we
get
did 24 hours
They
ago.
know what they came here for. They came to kick it with us.
Okay, we're going to get some water, maybe a quick workout. We'll squeeze a quick workout in the
Let's
next
get
few
some of that
minutes.
Miller Lite, too.
Okay, yeah, we'll have a few of these Miller Lights, and we'll come back, and we will cover who the Hornets select. Is it going to be Scoot Henderson? Is it going to be Brandon Miller? Stick with us live here on YouTube. This is Locked On Hornets. Let's do it.
Is Locked On Hornets.
I think you guys are kind of being a little hard because
Wow.
they're in. They are again, and this is me trying to be Mr. Positivity, which is really not my role. But they're
This
we'll
is
go
the
with it.
turntables have definitely turned here. This is
Yeah,
not. This is absolutely not your role. And in fact, I think leaving this podcast has turned you into a completely different person when it comes
You've
to the
changed,
Hornets.
man.
So
You've
what I'm
changed.
saying is, I think we should discredit whatever you're about to say even before you say it. Go ahead.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast. Is Locked On Hornets.
I know a lot about the weight room. I know a ton about the weight. I don't lift a lot of weights, but I do kind of stand around the weight room. Are you using that? You're good? Okay, good. Okay,
Yeah.
good. And you know,
No,
I stand
yeah.
around the weight room a lot.
Do you have the high socks and the headband on with your hair tied back?
Oh yeah, big like white tube socks for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, headband. Yeah, I've got it all. I've got
Yeah,
big
you're gonna have to show
these headphones right here that you see me wearing on YouTube right now. I take these into the gym. So I'm just, it's about looking professional. You got to look the part, right? Dress for the job that you want. That's how I feel about how I am in the weight room.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast. Is Locked On Hornets.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Hornet, bees, I don't care. You're getting the can. Get away from me, buddy.
Not bees, though. Save the bees, Doug. For the Hornets, actually, I don't want a live hornet in my house.
Honeybees?
For bee, I'll cut through.
Because I won't do you. If you're a carpenter bee, if you're not a threat, talk about. Here we go. Go back to our
Here you
conversation.
go.
The second
The
segment.
Carpenters.
The
Charlotte
carpenter bee
Carpenters.
has become such a low threat that I don't care about it anymore. When I'm walking by, a bumblebee, I'm not worried about a bumblebee. So I'm just going to ignore it. But you talking a honeybee, small, will sting you, will die to sting. They'll
Yes,
die. They
and
will
so-
literally kill themselves
Come
in order
on.
to sting you. That's how
There's
passionate
something
they
here.
are. So they're getting the can.
There's something here.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast. This is Locked On Hornets.
This amazing photo of Mitch Kupchak standing next to Steve Clifford in what looks like I think if you typed into one of those AI image generators, shotgun wedding, this is the picture that would come up because Steve Clifford looks absolutely
That's so good.
shocked.
There's not a background. Underrated part of this. It's just a blank white screen, so you're not having any Hornets graphics. You don't even have the courtesy to
There's
bring
blank,
in what
blank
they do.
white faces too. Blank white faces.
Yes.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast. Is Locked On Hornets.
Walker, sometimes you don't have to have the best package.
Okay.
Sometimes you just have to have the only package. If you wait, if my dating life taught me anything, sometimes you just have to wait around long enough until you're the only thing remaining. And then suddenly you look pretty great in comparison.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast. Is Locked On Hornets.
Adam Silver had Ahmad Rashad up on stage, and he used his phone to body scan Ahmad Rashad, and then they inserted a digital version of Ahmad Rashad into the highlight. And so I'm looking at this and going, just fix my league pass. I don't want to be in a highlight. I would just like to actually watch the highlight without my application logging me out, freezing, dropping all of the time. Fix my league pass before you insert me in the game, please and thank you.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Okay, what's it going to be, folks? Are we going to be cracking open a Brandon Miller Light,
Oh, man.
or in honor of 77% of the fan base that wants it to be Scoot Henderson at number 2, are we going to pop the bubbly? We're going to find out here in just a few minutes. ESPN has kicked off their official broadcast. We're following along here on David's laptop best we can.
Yeah.
But rules of the game.
We see it.
If we see it, if we see something, we say something. So just be prepared for that. If you don't want to get tipped, then I'm sorry, go watch ESPN. What can I tell you?
I got to say, guys, this has been insane to watch. The one thing I've learned is that, at least with the Hornets, no one ever knew anything. Whatever happens with this pick, whoever goes back and pulls out receipts or tries to from 3 weeks ago, it's a farce because no one ever knew anything. The one thing the Hornets did, I'm convinced of, and you can say it's good or bad, but they kept it close to home. They kept it tight.
So I can a little bit of time in the Locked On Hornets trust tree. I talked to a draft analyst, one of them.
Oh, wow.
One of the major ones.
Sources.
And one thing that was constantly brought up was that nobody knows anything with the Hornets. And
those are the people I respect.
Like, that was made very obvious, and I do believe that they have not done any of the talking. I think a lot of the talking has been done by two camps, Scoot Henderson, and then, like, I just don't think that these, like, no, they haven't done anything. And
then how do you go from, we know they're not saying anything, you have people saying, well, most teams I talk to think Brandon Miller is the best, or most teams we talk to have Brandon Miller, they would get them at 2. But there hasn't been much. I mean, how do you prove that? I guess you can't. They have good sources.
Most of it's been like, and I guess to reveal some of the curtain as someone that's had to produce some of this draft coverage, most of the stuff about Brandon Miller came from Chicago. I think we have to recognize that. Like, that was initial early, I don't want to call it sewing circle basketball gossip, but it kind of was. A lot of that was started there. So you got to remember, a lot of the groupthink came from Chicago initially, and then it just spawned into its own monster. It's like, I think it was Jonathan Wasserman that said, it started from what Mitch said at the lottery.
Yeah.
It started with that. But I also do think that a lot of this was follow the leader, and a lot of people that were probably trading favors for access went with a narrative that would favor their client. Surprise, surprise.
Well, and if you've paid attention to Hornets drafts in the past few years, the pick always goes down to the wire. I mean, we didn't know about that Duren trade until after the pick was on. We thought, I thought we had Duren, and then all of a sudden it's a trade. Things don't get tipped, and we just have to deal with the fact that they seem to enjoy it. They seem to enjoy keeping things from us. Maybe
this may be the last year of it, though, too.
That's right. New ownership group coming in. We just don't know. This is a huge pick for the Charlotte Hornets. They are set to pick second overall in the NBA draft for the 4th time. They've selected Alonzo Mourning. They've selected Emeka Okafor. They've selected Michael Kidd-Gilchrist in the number 2 slot. So we don't know which way this is going to go. Adam Silver is at the podium to introduce this draft to everyone, and we widely expect Victor Wembanyama to be the number 1 pick.
If not, then it's a whole different show.
Well, yeah, then we start taking shirts off, so just get ready. So Victor Wembanyama, I mean, how long are we going to be thinking about what could have Victor Wib been?
I'm not spending much time on it.
Well, listen.
Wait, Walker, did you like that joke? Yes, he liked it. Thank you, Walker.
But you know, one thing that was interesting in Mitch's talk yesterday, he let people know that kind of hit them.
Yeah,
you know, that kind of hit them hard. I mean, they saw their life flash before his eyes.
We all did. We all. I thought I was going to move back to Charlotte. I was like, look, if it's Victor, I'm packing boxes. I'm getting the U-Haul.
Right.
Well, I mean, does Jordan sell if he gets Victor? Think about that.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
There was a little bit of you think still he goes,
I don't know. I don't think he sells either. I think he stays.
David seems conflicted, and you are, to be fair, Nata, David is the
I don't know.
The Jordanologist here.
It would seem like that conversation took place prior to the draft lottery, though. I don't know if anything was hanging on that or contingent.
Sure,
on
but
that.
I have it on good authority from my sources that Jordan never said, "Oh my God, this outfit from Grady Dick. I just got a view of it. It's incredible."
Yeah. Oh, this is the first time you saw it?
No, I've seen it, but just seeing it on video. I saw some pictures, but seeing the video is just a whole new journey.
Seeing it move, oh my God.
But I have it on good authority authority that Michael Jordan never said no take backsies. Okay. And so if you don't say no take backsies, then you can take backsies.
I mean, as long as the sale process in terms of the Plotkin group
Look
getting
at
their
these
money
Spurs fans.
together, like it could have been like, hey, you took too long. We got Victor. I'm not selling now. I can see a scenario like that.
Or he's asking for an extra couple. Another bill, maybe. I don't know.
Exactly.
I do think, though, going into that lottery night, and I told this to Doug and Walker, top 3, I was good. I was going to be good with top 3. And that should not have changed. My emotions should not have gotten the best of me, but I still think that's how you do have to think about this. It was a 3-person draft. There will be someone else that pops. We just don't know who.
Yeah.
History would tell us that. But one of the top 3s will make the Hornets a better team next year.
Absolutely. I think this is I will continue to say this is a no-lose draft. This is a win-win situation for the Charlotte Hornets.
Doug
wants to strangle me for that.
No, I'm not. No, I don't want to strangle you. I want to strangle the basketball gods that favored San Antonio over Charlotte. I thought to myself that if the Hornets won the lottery, that everyone would react the same way. Oh, the lottery's rigged. Michael Jordan wanted to sell the team, and looky, all of a sudden the NBA shines down on Charlotte, giving them Victor Wembanyama. And I kind of thought that too. I'm like, look, if Charlotte gets it, I might start buying into the conspiracy theories all of a sudden. I might get the tinfoil out.
And it would be the first time ever, though, that happened.
I would trade in my reporter hat for a tinfoil hat, okay? But then the NBA shocked me by somehow coming up with the even more rigged scenario of saving Greg Popovich's the end of his career, extending it even further, giving San Antonio yet another shot at being the darlings of the NBA media and continuing their run of championship contention with Victor Wembanyama, and giving Charlotte the 2nd pick. Like they doubled down on the rig. It was amazing.
Well, yeah, I do believe. I hope you come up with these conspiracy theories all summer, because I know you're going to need content to like get us through the summer. But please come up with the random Hornets conspiracies. Do one for Corey Higgins for me. Do one.
Bobcats conspiracy theories. I don't know. That whole Bobcats era just seemed like a dark dream more than a conspiracy. But no, they're wearing the purple and teal now, and we're all happy. And I think we have to. Don't we have to get to a place? We have to find a way to come together over this pick. You know, Scoot Henderson fans. No, I'm serious about this. Yeah. Scoot Henderson fans have to give Brandon Miller fans an off ramp if it's Scoot. And I've been concerned that, the Scoot, the Brandon Miller contingent is small, but they are boisterous. They are vocal. They've got to find a way to give some off ramps to the Scoot Henderson crowd, because look, I think a lot of people that have been on the Scoot wagon have readily admitted that if Brandon Miller maxes out his ceiling, you're talking about a guy that's going to shoot the lights out, that's going to defend multiple positions. He's not a lockdown defender. The Hornets still need to find some role players in this draft, I think, and in subsequent drafts. They have not filled the coffers of this team full of 3-and-D players. The best statistically, the best 3-and-D player this Hornets team had last season was P.J. Washington. That's unacceptable. You're not going to win regular season games if your best 3-and-D guy is P.J. Washington. It's got to be more than that. They've got to find some stuff on the wings. Brandon Miller can help that. He's not going to be a lockdown defender, but his length would help that. There are ways to get your head around a scenario where the Hornets win with Brandon Miller.
Yeah, agreed. And the job's not done tonight, though, right? I mean, they have 5 picks. They may not make them all, but they're going to have to still do some work. And Michael Jordan, by all accounts, is going to be in there doing that work through free agency, through the summer.
Well, we'll see about that one.
Okay, listen, the pick is in for San Antonio. Who do you think it's going to be?
Respect for them not draining the entire clock on this. Like, respect.
Right. Thank you. We all have families. At least San Antonio is respecting that. We all got to get back home to our kids. We really appreciate it.
Team needs. I like that. Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, every team needed Victor Wembanyama. Only one team got him.
Here's the thing. Like, if it's Brandon Miller, there are a lot of people who do legitimately have him ranked ahead of Scoot.
Oh, I got a good question. Yeah. I've got a good question that we have to get to before we get the second round pick or second overall pick. Who do you think has the better chance of being better than Victor Wembanyama? If there's a scenario where Scoot or Brandon's better than Victor Wembanyama, who's got the better chance?
If you give, can we extend it to one of the Thompson twins?
I was going to say. I mean, it's got to
Wow.
be Scoot because if you've got the highest ceiling is going to get the closest to Wembanyama.
I think it's Amen Thompson. I like both. I like both. I think just physically, Amen Thompson is like that, and I'm not going to say he's in the LeBron class of athlete and body, but it's kind of close.
Super close. All right.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't think it's going to be a Thompson twin for
Yeah.
the Charlotte Hornets. I think now that would be the shock of all shocks if it ended up being a Thompson twin.
If they do that, I know I'm hosting the show because you guys have basically.
I will
just-
quit. I will quit because there's no point in us talking for what was it, a month and a half about Scoot or Brandon and it'd be a Thompson twin. That would ruin me. And they had the Thompson twins in for a workout. It's not as if they didn't
who
entertain
wasn't?
it. No, these guys were in. So real quick, if you're watching this on YouTube, I know we've had some comments all over YouTube saying you're not in your normal setups and this setup's amazing. What's going on? Well, what's going on is we are in Everybody Studios in Charlotte, North Carolina, Charlotte's premier creative studio for audio, video, and podcast projects. Everybody Studios is a production company that creates fresh, high-quality, engaging podcasts for businesses, organizations, and individuals. They know that podcasting is a powerful medium that can be used as a highly effective and efficient marketing tool to connect with audiences, share stories, and build relationships. Did you know that? Well, now you do because I just said it. Their mission is to help clients create and produce podcasts that achieve their personal and marketing goals and make a positive impact on the Charlotte community. They're great people. This is a great studio. Book your free consult today. Visit everybodystudios.com. That's EVRYBDY studios.com. One more time, EVRYBDY studios.com. And there's the pick. It is in. It is announced. Victor Wembanyama is a member of the San Antonio Spurs. The Hornets, who have been on the clock for
Oh boy,
for a month.
Here we go.
They've been on the clock for an entire month. They are officially on the clock.
The draft starts now.
I mean, so we did not have a Shams pre-pick tweet.
No one's tipping it.
No one's tipping the picks. People are going to be happy. Aren't we going to be happy now that we're not tipping the picks?
That
Well,
might
we don't know.
change.
We don't know if he's not tipping the picks. We just know that he's not tipping
This
the
one,
Hornets one yet. Maybe we get one seconds before it happens. Rod Boone from the Charlotte Observer, he's tweeting. He said, "My TV hit on WSOC is complete and the draft is on. How you feeling, Hornets fans?" And let's see.
Did he just say he's not on? He was on TV. Now he's not on TV.
That's correct.
okay,
He
right.
was on TV. Now he's not on TV.
because it sounded like he wasn't at the arena, and then I would have a lot of questions.
No, the draft is on his. Maybe the draft is on his TV. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what he's meaning there, but that's okay. He asked Hornets fans how they feel. Ezel704 said excited for B. Miller. Dylan says nervous. Andy Johnson says terrified, and I don't know why. I mean, that's how I've been feeling. I'm ready for this to mercifully end,
Yes.
so that we can. Because look, I think it's going to be legitimately exciting to talk about both of these players. I think it will be a mistake not to draft Scoot. I'm not backing away from my position. I think Scoot is going to be the better player out of, and I'm including Amen Thompson in this. I'm including Cam Whitmore, who looks like he might be falling, but I love him. I'm including all of those players except, you got to give it up to Victor until he proves otherwise. Like this guy's, the wingspan is crazy. The game is crazy. Can he shoot? I think that's going to be a big question as to whether he becomes sort of, a possible GOAT status or whatever. But I think of the non-Victor category, Scoot has the best opportunity to be the best player out of this class. But Brandon's going to be a darn good player.
Yeah. The only thing that because you talk about the intangibles, and this is something that Scoot has in spades over Brandon Miller. Again, has the work ethic, is basically mentored by Steph Curry. This feels like if you're going to go with a guy with all the intangibles, including the athleticism and everything else, it feels like he should be the pick.
I have a question about the Steph stuff because it interests me because Scoot wasn't the only one doing that. Brandon Miller talked about how he was talking to, I think, Damian Lillard. He mentioned a couple of players.
Yeah, but they've formed some sort of like
Partnership.
professional.
Okay, that's
a new
okay.
thing.
That's fine. It's a little weird, but it's fine. But what I wonder is he probably has Steph's cell phone number. He's calling him up saying, "Hey, you want to hit the gym? Whatever." Pre-draft, that's all fine and well. But once Scoot becomes a member of an opposing team, I just wonder if Steph's like, "F you, get away from me." Like, if you want to do the business
absolutely.
thing, if you want to do the business thing, let's let the agents talk. But you and I are going 1v1.
I mean, we see the same thing with Draymond Green and LeBron James, right? So I think there is something to it. I do think that Brandon, not Brandon, but Scoot. I think Scoot getting that mentorship and getting an idea of what the league is like early, because I do think that the G League does prepare you better than college does right now.
There we go.
So,
what do we have?
After seriously debating Scoot Henderson and Brandon Miller, Charlotte is selecting Miller at number 2.
And who is that from?
That's from Shams.
Wow, Shams has
Oh,
it. We don't have confetti, but we do have
Miller
we
Lights.
have a Miller Lite to crack open. We've got 12 of them. I couldn't find a 6-pack. I had to go the full 12 cans of Miller Lite. And I know that there are going to be a lot of Hornets fans that really wanted Scoot Henderson to be the pick that are going to be drinking a lot of Miller Lights to forget this night. But I think it should be a celebration, honestly, that they actually made this pick. Because I think it was important for this team to make this pick. They needed to make this decision and not trade this pick away and possibly get less value, possibly take on a question mark in Zion Williamson. They have instead, this group, this front office that may not be the front office much longer, they've bet on the future for the Charlotte Hornets. And at this point, we just have to figure out, was it the right bet? And we're not going to know that probably for another couple of years. But we're going to certainly debate it for the next couple of years.
yeah, no, we're going to debate it for the next couple of years. Yeah. I just hope people understand that this was, a lot of the people I talked to, they had them on the same tier. I think this was just, which flavor did you like a little bit more? And for a lot of people, that flavor is going to be Scoot Henderson because of the aesthetically pleasing game, the athleticism, everything else like that. I do want people to understand that length and shooting and defense really does matter. And if he can change the way that this team defends, shoots, and works on offense, I think they may have a guy like that. I think it's going to work. I just hope people give Brandon Miller the requisite time.
We got some people in the chat. Must BZ23 saying, now if Miller balls out, what will you say now? I'll say, awesome. I'm glad the Hornets have a great player on their hands. I mean, that's the thing. This whole time, we're people who watch a lot of Hornets games. And whether, we're putting our reporter hat on or our fan jersey on, it's much more fun to watch this team win. And if Miller helps this team win in the future, and helps them win a playoff series, that's step one, okay? Yeah. I mean, beyond getting to a conference finals or a finals, you want to win a playoff series. And if he's a part of that as soon as next year, then, I'm going to celebrate that. And I think he could be because of his shooting talent. I mean, that's something that you will install right away. And he helps you just get lengthier than you were with, Terry Rozier at the 2.
Yeah, I mean, the shooting is the thing that they're going off of, along with some of the intangibles, too. Yeah. I mean, we just haven't seen them yet. That's some of the questions I'd love to hear, maybe when he gets a media some time or Mitch comes out and says, I hope someone asks them about that interview process, what tipped their hand. Obviously, they've already put it out there that it was best player available, over fit. So that's the one guy they had on their board. But clearly, there was a lot of deliberation. And clearly, this went down to the wire from everything we can tell. So I would like to know, because outwardly, the intangibles, the locker room stuff, all goes in Scoot's favor. Perhaps Brandon Miller, shared more of himself with them than he has with the outside world thus far. But those are going to be questions that I would hope they get tomorrow or whenever he comes in town.
I honestly I do want to hear, like Doug said, I want to hear about the process, about how they came to this pick. Or someone.
Well, listen, you can want that. I'm not sure that
I'm not sure Mitch is going to give us all of it, but I think I want to know, how much did he shoot the lights out? How much did that first workout, where he apparently bombed, how much of that tape did they burn? There's a lot of this for me that I still I still would like to understand, especially since there was so much secrecy around this.
Right. Well, those are the questions I have. if he bombed the first workout and then had a good second workout, why wasn't that, a red flag or something that weighed into it? I'm sure it was. If Scoot was fantastic in 2 workouts and had 2 great interviews, how was that weighed differently? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, look, the whole time it's easy to see why teams would fit him in easier or envision that with the Hornets or a lot of teams, especially some that already have a point guard. So the fit, can't really be argued, I don't think. I mean, you can not taking away from whatever fit Scoot would have had, but Brandon Miller is a good fit on this team. Hornets fans were just hoping for a huge shot in the arm tonight. And, I don't know that they necessarily got it tonight. That doesn't mean it can't come in Summer League and then down the road, but there's certainly going to be a lot of
there's going to be a lot of anger.
Yeah.
Stay off Twitter. Stay off Hornets Twitter for a little bit. Stay off NBA Twitter for a little bit.
Well, I think that's important to note that this is an organization run by Michael Jordan and Mitch Kupchak that I think, honestly, it's fair to say had lost the trust of the fan base for a variety of reasons, but especially, MJ's decision-making was always a question. And now his final parting gift is to take a player that I think a vast majority of the fan base
hates. Yep.
I don't know if they hate him, but they just love the other guy more. And but this is, look, I'm not going to say to their credit, but you have to understand that Michael Jordan and Mitch Kupchak and that team, they made their decision in a vacuum. Like they don't care what the fans want.
Yes.
And again, you can, whatever you think about that, I don't even know what to tell you about that, except that that's just, they don't really care. They're going to make the decision that they think is best. And unfortunately, the evidence is not totally in their favor that they know what decision is the best, right? I mean, you can't, this is not an organization like the Golden State Warriors or like
they have the cachet, yeah.
Or like the San Antonio Spurs, where you have just a number, or even Isaiah Thomas with the New York Knicks. Like, this is not, an organization that you can look at a litany of picks and go, well, they got this, and this right. In fact, the exact opposite. You look back at the list and go, there are a number of opportunities for them to snag players that could be game-changing, life-changing for fans, and they didn't take those opportunities. And so I think there's going to be a reasonable amount of skepticism, fairly or unfairly, towards Brandon Miller.
Well, yeah, and Brandon and Scoot, it looks like Portland's going to take Scoot. If he ends up there permanently, we'll see. But certainly here in Charlotte, those two are going to be tied together for quite a long time. I mean, he's going to be in Portland, so people might not watch him every night, but they're going to be having an eye on him. They're going to be checking the box scores. They're going to be checking Twitter, Instagram for the highlights, and especially that first year. And
Summer League is going to be
Summer League
is going to be unbearable.
Yeah,
and
because Scoot might dominate Summer League.
Yeah, that's built for him.
Yeah.
A guy with the ball in his hands, again with a usage rate about 30.
And Brandon Miller is going to be playing with what point guard at Summer League?
Who knows? That's what's scary.
Right.
That's what's like. The thing that I want, and I hate to be the guy that seems to be the Hornets shill, but I think the Hornets sometimes get a bad rap. Sometimes. Jordan, not necessarily Jordan, but
can I shotgun this?
Yeah,
is that possible?
Well.
Just just give me that pencil. Give me that pen.
I do think that they have done some things that have made you scratch your head. Last year with pick 13, I can defend it. I'm choosing not to, but I can defend it.
No, I'm not laughing at you. I'm sorry. I'm reacting to these tweets as they come in.
Oh,
Adrian
Wojnarowski
about
Twitter?
Well, Adrian,
he's spiking. No, he's spiking the football right now.
God.
All along, the entire Charlotte Hornets organization has been all in on Brandon Millership. Ownership, front office, scouts, coaches, they see him as a perennial future all-star player.
spiking the football.
Information that could have been useful yesterday.
Yeah, wasn't totally going out on that limb until after the pick was already made. This whole process is shambolic.
Wait, are we so all in, all parties?
Well, we'll find out. We'll
Wow.
find out. Well, and honestly, what are they going to say? Well, are they going to say it? I think they have the opportunity, though, for real. I think they have the opportunity to come out and say it was a close call.
Well, Shams isn't giving up. He's saying after long debating, and Woj is saying all along.
For me, I don't think that this was Jordan all along saying he wants his guy, because there were rumors of that.
I don't either.
There were rumors of that going around that Jordan wanted this guy. I think this was a long debate. I do think that they both see Scoot and Brandon Miller on the same tier. And if they're on the same tier, fit does need to play a part in this. You're going to have to get the guy that's equally talented and fits better into what you want to do going further. I think that's where I can be like, okay, I understand it. But that's about it, because I'm going to be real. I wanted Scoot Henderson just as bad as probably everybody else.
Okay, well, they didn't select Scoot Henderson. So, we're going to hear from Walker Mehl in a few, not bobblehead Walker Mehl, but the actual Walker Mehl, who will certainly have some read on the reaction of the fan base that was attending the Wesson Walker draft party.
A lot of breakables in there, too.
Boy. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's going to be the scene from Blues Brothers where all the beer bottles hit the gate. We'll have to see from him in just a moment. But I want to talk about what the Hornets are getting in Brandon Miller. And I want to go to our college basketball expert, the producer of the Eye on College Basketball podcast, Nata Edwards. So let's do our best to put Scoot dreams to bed for a moment.
Okay.
And just talk about what the Hornets are getting in Brandon Miller and how he's going to fit into this lineup.
Brandon Miller is going to be most likely your future two guard. It's part of the reason why no matter who this team was going to draft, I think Terry Rozier was gone. But Brandon Miller can handle the ball, 6'9". The best way I can describe him is think of Michael Porter Jr. without the bad back. I'm not going to go total Jason Tatum.
Okay.
But I think the floor for him was going to be Chris Middleton. The ceiling obviously is like a Tatum-esque player. I think he's a long, rangy guy that can defend, that can guard. I'm not going to say 2 for right now because the 2s in the NBA are relatively quick. I will say he can defend 3 to 4. I think he's a better passer. I think he was the initiator in the offense for Alabama. The biggest issue that you're going to see with a Brandon Miller is going to be the fact that he is not strong enough to hold off his man. I think he's a very dynamic scorer. He's going to impact winning immediately with his jump shot, with the shooting ability. The dribbling is going to get there. I think this is a great pick. I think this is a can't-lose guy. But for me, I think if you're looking at the way the league is going bigger, the league is going longer, you got to be able to do multiple things. If that's going to play a factor in this, I understand the Brandon Miller pick.
David, what do they get?
Yeah, I mean, they're getting the shooter and they're getting a floor spacer. I mean, let's not discount that. He's going to be in that corner. He's going to be out top. He's going to make more room for LaMelo. And hopefully some other ball handlers to get in there and do it. But I will say I was undervaluing his passing a little bit, and he does have a little bit of that in his game. Like you said, they ran a lot of the offense at Alabama through him. I think that may be a nice surprise when he gets in the NBA. Walker is a little more down on his handle, but I thought it was fine. And I think it'll be okay.
It's okay. I think for a 6'9" guy, it's okay.
Right.
It's not Harrison Barnes bad where you worry about, or PJ Washington where you worry about him putting it on the deck.
Or Jaylen Brown. Let's not just crap all over the Carolina guys.
Fair. But he's not a Jaylen Brown. I think his handle is going to be adequate for right now. Can it get better? Absolutely. Yeah. But for me, I think Brandon Miller is going to be better than people think. He's just not going to have the Instagrammable highlights that we're going to see with Scoot Henderson. And I you know what? I think the best way I can put it is the Hornets drafted Wheaties, and then the Blazers drafted Sour Patch Kids with popcorn.
Yeah, I mean, the separation, which you mentioned, being able to get away from his man kind of leads to his inability to finish at the rim, which is the big thing that people are pointing out. He's just not strong enough and doesn't have the explosion to go over guys if he doesn't have the angle or like a running start. If he gets a running start, he's still dunking on you.
Exactly.
And he's going to be fine from that standpoint. So, hey, from that standpoint, if you're running alongside LaMelo, it maybe not be that big a deal in those scenarios, but off the dribble and trying to beat his guy, like he struggled to even beat taller guys, like guys that you would think he would have that advantage of because he's a little quicker.
Complete strength issue. We're going to see a lot of it in Summer League. We saw it a lot with a guy like James Bouknight that struggled with strength.
Yeah, and the last thing, Doug, if you go back and look at his high school tapes, his AAU tapes, you'll see a lot more of that mid-range than I think you saw at Alabama.
Yeah.
And I think that could be a big piece. I mean, think about how they use Gordon Hayward. Think how they can throw it down into him and just say, go get a bucket. He is 6'9". If he can get in there, learn how to use that leverage, that could be another weapon that we didn't see at Alabama as much, which could be good. And he is good on defense. I mean, I think he will be he's not going to be a lockdown defender, I don't think.
Not
Maybe
yet.
he could get there, not yet, but he's not going to be a sieve either.
No, because I mean, you look at his defensive assignments in college. I mean, and you look at his footwork, and it's really good. Like he can move his feet. He's got good lateral quickness. Like he has some of the building blocks that make a Paul Georgian like two-way player, a guy that can defend and be a primary scorer. Like you see glimpses of what Brandon Miller wants to become. But I think this conversation sort of perfectly fits where my head is, which is like, we're going to have to do some serious expectation setting for the rookie season, right? Because
I thought we were going to have to do that with Scoot anyway.
No, I think in a world where Victor Wembanyama, God forbid this would happen, but in a Chet Holmgren kind of situation where he misses a season and has to reset his rookie season, and the Rookie of the Year competition opens up.
Well, which I think it might even, depending on how much they play him in San Antonio.
Like you remember, we have the 65 game thing.
Right. So I think that it will be interesting to see how much of a primary scoring option Brandon Miller is in his first season, or is he more of, because again, you have to remember there are a lot of people that think they're going to bring back Miles Bridges. They're going to bring back PJ Washington. And if they retain Terry Rozier for another season,
I don't think they are. I honestly think this makes Terry Rozier more likely to leave than to be traded out, rather than they keeping him.
The problem is that the Hornets are serious about competing for a playoff spot this next season, which has been what they vocalized a lot.
Yeah.
The problem with Brandon Miller is that you get into a situation where, as you said, he's going to have a tough time defending twos, and he's going to have a tougher time scoring against threes, like good threes.
Yeah.
So he's caught in this middle situation, and we're going to see how he battles through that. And I think one way you can battle through that is just to become a third or fourth option catch and shoot player, which is that was the Miles Bridges path, right? Remember Miles Bridges' rookie season? He was a corner catch and shoot three specialist that when he got transition opportunities, dunked the hell out of the ball. But they weren't throwing the ball to Miles Bridges and asking him to go make plays. Yeah. Now, Brandon Miller's a number 2 overall pick.
Yeah. That's the problem.
But he's super young, so
I think they can.
You think Hornets fans are mad now? You think they're mad about Scoot not being the pick? Imagine if Brandon Miller isn't like immediately in the starting lineup, getting the 40 minutes a game.
Look, I'm putting my as soon as Summer League comes, I'm locking down my Twitter account, because I really just the amount of anger that's going to come when he's just a pick and pop, or if he's Diet Hito Turkoglu, like Orlando Hito Turkoglu, gets his threes.
Well, Steve Clifford would like that, I think.
No, I think that's the other thing. I think Cliff loves this guy. I think Cliff also had a factor in this. I also think that Cliff probably is going to have the best way to use him going forward as he builds strength. I think that's going to be the big thing is, can he be, I don't want to use Nick Batum, but I want to say like 2015, 26, can he be that kind of guy where you can slot him in fourth, fifth best player, be the guy that can distribute, can play make, can be the secondary playmaker, and can he average anywhere from 10 to 12, shoot 38, 39 from 3, and if he hits 35 from the floor, like from 2, I think that's a really good rookie season. It's just not going to be the thing that everybody wants right now.
Well, he might not win Rookie of the Year, right? Is he the best offensive rookie day one that they've drafted?
Since Barron, probably.
Right?
Probably since Barron.
I mean, certainly Kemba wasn't polished.
Kemba wasn't Kemba.
He couldn't shoot like he eventually could. So is he the best?
Oh, they drafted Kobe.
Oh, oh dear.
I mean, I was keeping it to the current Bobcat Hornets.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for sure. I dare go to the chat.
No.
Do I dare? I have to. I mean,
do it. Yeah. They've been hanging with.
They've been hanging with us this whole show. I've got to go.
Well, don't leave now.
Oh boy.
All right. Someone says, as a Magic fan, Cliff is trash. He don't know how to utilize his players.
That's not true.
That's sour grapes. That's sour Magic Orlando grapes right there. God of Blackness says Cliff doesn't have to coach Brandon up on defense. I mean, good point.
Yeah.
There are arguments that people will throw out on Brandon that I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. Like he prides himself on defense. He says, look, guys can say a lot of things. Terry Rozier comes out and says he's going to focus on defense every season, right? So guys can say a lot of things, but when you watch him at Alabama, it's like, nah, like that guy could have gone to Alabama in that offense and just been exclusively an offensive player, and people would have still thought like, hey, this guy's really, really good at offense. Got some questions on defense, but he's really, really good at offense. He didn't do that. He decided, hey, I think to win the SEC and to do things in the tournament, I've got to be, I want to take pride on defense and become a Paul Georgian type of player. And he did that. That's to his credit.
I think we also have to remember that Brandon Miller just had one of the best seasons as a freshman in terms of scoring.
Well, that had some influence on Michael Jordan. And I'm not even kidding about that.
No,
he likes guys that play well in college. As someone that played well in college, I think there is a legitimate bias there. I think G League Ignite did hurt Scoot. I think that OTE did hurt Amin Thompson.
Oh, I agree.
Well, you watch a couple highlights and you can realize why that is.
Yeah.
Well, and guys are going to look. There's an adjustment period happening. Guys, whether Michael Jordan or any of these guys like it or not, players are taking different paths because different paths are open to them. And people are making semi-legitimate arguments about like the competition level in Ignite and the competition level in OTE. And that's all fine and good. It's all gonna even out at some point, right? G League Ignite and college, they're all gonna blend and merge. I hear Walker Mehl on the phone right now.
Are you safe? Find a safe space.
Walker, are you covering your head right now? What's the scene like? What was the scene like after the pick was announced?
It was a little better than it was at Spectrum Center from what I saw on social media. It did look. Spectrum Center didn't seem like it was very welcoming. Look, man, no booing though. Like maybe a little booing, but there wasn't a ton of booing on the second overall pick. So people aren't happy, but we'll see if people can bounce back.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. I don't think so.
That's the voice I really wanted to hear because I've only been like imagining your voice with angry tweets for the last couple of weeks. Well, look, here's the thing, right? Like I've been seeing the angry tweets from Nata about how people need to be okay with Brandon Miller being the second overall pick. I imagine you've got some work to do with a lot of people after this. Nata, where were you at the very end? Because I've been having to do the different live show. Like, are you thrilled about this? Like, you're ready to rock and roll with Brandon Miller?
I'm not thrilled, but what I'm not I'm not surprised, and I kind of like they're on the same tier. I think we're discounting how well Brandon Miller was from offense outside of a couple of games at this point.
Walker, I don't know if you're with me, but like I think you didn't see the broadcast, but when the pick was announced, I didn't get angry. I didn't flip tables. I didn't throw this bobblehead with your face on it. I didn't throw it at the wall. And I think some people,
don't do that.
You're right. I think some people expected me to do that because I have been driving the Scoot wagon so fast, so hard. And I didn't do it because I was resigned to what happened. It's their last hurrah.
I think a lot of people were.
It was their last opportunity to do this. This harkens back to the Cody Zeller pick and the reaction to it. So I was resigned. Is that how you felt, or did you feel legitimately stung by this decision?
No. So look, it looked like Brandon Miller was about to be the pick. I was for sure. I thought it was going to be the selection. Wes my co-host,
Oh, no.
loves to get you slacking on the video. He loves doing this. We've talked about it. And
Oh,
so
no.
he had the camera ready to go for the entire crowd reaction. And then he turns it to me, and I'm watching the TV, and I give no expression whatsoever.
That's it.
And so
no.
I'm just looking at the TV, and so I know the camera's on me, and I'm like, no, I'm not giving anybody any tears. I'm not giving anybody any expression like that because I'm not going to do that anyway. But everyone came, like, there were a couple Locked On Hornets fans that came out tonight. That was awesome. Really appreciate everybody stopping by. And then people would leave, and then they'd say, hey, man, sorry about Scoot.
Wow.
I had random people coming up to me because they knew. Lots of fans of the show, but people would come up and be like, hey, man, sorry about Scoot. I was like, nah, it's cool. We're going to backtrack. We're going to get this thing popping with Brandon Miller and hope it all works out. So that's where I am. Yes, Doug. Very similar neighborhood to where you reacted.
Well, it's going to be interesting too, right, for Brandon Miller. Like, he's not going to be protected from this reaction. It's going to be revealed to him that people reacted this way. And he's coming out of Alabama where folks worshiped him because he was such a great player and coaches protected him. Despite the off-the-court issues, they protected him. He's not going to be protected in the NBA, and he's not going to be shielded from the response, and the expectations are going to be high immediately, and I think it's going to be really interesting how he responds to that. We're going to know very quickly whether Brandon Miller can hang.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of that reaction, as you mentioned, because that's what I feel bad about, too. And this is the thing, man. Like, when people would ask about Scoot Henderson and Brandon Miller, which one do you want? I'd say Scoot. And then they would ask, okay, how much of that is because you love Scoot and how much of that is because you hate Brandon Miller? Yeah, nowhere near because I hate Brandon Miller. I don't know if I see these high-end comps that a lot of people that are in his camp see. I don't see the Jason Tatum. I don't see the athleticism to get Paul George. I think the high-end comp for him, where you get like the 90th to 100th percentile outcome, is Brandon Ingram because of the frame, because you start to just see how they play a little bit. Brandon Ingram's a shooter, lives in the mid-range. I think Brandon can bring that because of what we saw in high school. And so if you get Brandon Ingram, then that's okay. You know, I'll take a 25-5-5 guy without the injury history where he's been starting to load up on injuries a little bit. So, yeah, when you have somebody like Brandon Miller, 6'9" shooters, they're not going to fail, especially because they can do stuff. It's not like Steve Novak just got drafted number 2 overall, okay? It's not some 6'9" just shooter. It's going to be someone that does have that ability to be a secondary ball handler, be a little bit of a playmaker. I don't see him taking over at the high-value archetype that everyone sees him being with this pick. I just don't see it, and that's why I've always been on Team Scoot. I did see the All-NBA, one of the best guard prospects that we've seen in the last 10, 15 years. But, yeah, Brandon Miller, if you were at number 3, right, if you were the Portland Trailblazers and they took Brandon, you might be feeling a lot differently. I would. And at the end of the day, if you're only just one pick behind, I mean, if you were going to take just one guy behind the guy that you actually wanted, it's not that big of a deal. So, yeah, Brandon Miller is going to be just fine with the Hornets, and he's not going to fail. We know that.
So, Walker, when did you stop paying attention to the lines shifting and the Woj tweets and the Shams tweets?
Never.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, man. So you really did it to
I'm
yourself.
Refreshing.
You really did it to yourself.
I'm refreshing right now. What are the odds right now?
Well, the odds are
Brandon's
1
gonna be the second
billion. Yeah, it looks like it's still.
You
Brandon
never
Miller.
know. You never know. It could flip all of a sudden.
I like those odds.
We just gotta keep checking. We gotta keep checking for the next couple of months. We'll see what happens. Walker,
I was Twitter Tyrone Bigham scratching my neck, refreshing FanDuel odds every time.
Oh,
I was doing
man.
it when I saw minus 700. I went crazy, and then it flipped again. I was going nuts. But people were, even here at 10:58, people were coming up to me, hey, man, I heard you refreshing the odds. Where are they at right now? Everyone wanted to know the odds, and I was a man of the people today.
Well, look, I need to know, someone made some money, okay? These odds flipped so significantly. Someone bought in at the right time. Like, someone made some money on the, and I think it's Shams. I think Shams made all the money.
I do too.
We got to remember that Shams is a FanDuel employee. Like,
exactly.
There's something to that.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure he's playing all by the rules. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. Somebody contacted Shams from the higher ups and said, hey, man, let's go ahead and flip this because there's a lot of Woj talking about Brandon Miller. Evan Sider retweeting out. Woj says they're doubling down on Brandon. Can you go ahead and flip the odds real quick because we need some money? Boom! Minus 700 will take care of that. No, that'll take care of all that money not coming in. And so, yeah, eventually we flipped again, and Brandon was the pick.
So, listen, you've been amongst the fans all night. Who do they want at 27?
Is there anyone there?
Oh, people are talking about Derek Whitehead nonstop.
Yeah.
If it's anybody else, they are going to boo nonstop. Nah, I can't give you a serious answer. I don't know if people are even going to stick around, to be honest with you, for the 27th pick.
Right, they can storm.
Just make sure there's no property damage. Just
Yeah, that's right. They're not sticking around. They're all going to Spectrum Center right now. Pitchforks raised.
Well, and speaking of the property damage, like TD's here, and look, TD.
What did he think? Wait. What did he think of the
And
pick? What did he think of the pick?
He's a Georgia guy, right? He was from Marietta.
Oh,
boy. And of course, Thomas Davis went to Georgia. Brandon Miller went to Alabama. We were not here for the Brandon Miller selection. We asked him right as we were getting off of the air who we wanted, and he was absolutely in favor of Scoot. He said he'd welcome Brandon Miller. He wasn't going to boo him like some of the other people. And he was in favor of trading for Zion, too, though. He would have been just fine with Zion Williamson being that trade, but I haven't seen that, so it's going to be Brandon.
Speaking of trades, do you have any bold predictions, any thoughts on, obviously the Hornets, might not make all of these picks. I mean, that's been the word from Mitch Kupchak. I don't think any of us expect them to make all of these picks. Do you have any predictions for us on trades? Where do you think their head's at?
Yeah, I mean, you can't expect them to make every single selection. I wonder if they trade a couple of these picks to try to, invest. And there's a loud car. Sorry about it. But yeah, there's maybe like this anticipation they could trade a couple picks and then get some better value in the future. I wonder if Mitch Kupchak would want to do that. So I don't know. I mean, I hope they make 27. I think that's still a good enough pick to where, okay, yeah, of course you can't make all 5, but if you make the other first round selection, do the Greensboro thing. Maybe he's good enough to, be 15th man on the roster. That's still probably far-fetched, but you get the idea. You still get a talented guy in the first round. That's what I would like to see. I'd still like to see them make that pick at least.
I have to read you this comment, Walker, that we're getting on the chat right now. Hattori Hanzo says, "Let's go. We drafted a slightly better Jalen McDaniels," which should thrill you, Walker.
Wow.
Well, wait. Why didn't that guy go number 1 then? If that's the case, we should have drafted him number 1 instead of number 2.
Hey,
San Antonio missed out.
I have some good news for you. I went by the fan shop today to get this awesome Steve shirt. Thank you, Steve Martin, the great Steve Martin. I got one of these shirts on the clearance rack for $6. And also on the clearance rack were a number of Buzz City edition Jalen McDaniels jerseys. So if you're looking for one of them, I should have gotten it for you for Christmas.
Now, the thing is, yes, people were going with that. I thought you were going to read my Cam Johnson tweet, which is honestly better. I didn't expect you to go worse than the Cam Johnson tweet where I said Brandon Miller is higher usage, worse finishing at the rim, but better shooting off the dribble Cam Johnson.
Walker got lit up for that one. Walker got lit up. I was laughing at that one. They treated you like you were a jar of grape jelly.
So they ate me on up. That's what happened. I was a bottle of Smuckers. Everybody wants that.
You
now,
and your
here's the
subpar
thing.
taste.
Yes. Now, here's the thing, though. The Cam Johnson tweet, while everybody was like, that's a little rough, I wouldn't do that. Thing is, that was a historic shooting season, and this is what you're excited about with Brandon. The fact that all the advanced numbers show that he was in the 90th percentile with a variety of different shots, pull up, off screens, catch and shoot, unguarded. Those are going to be – I wonder if this is going to be something that he can help with right away, or if we get caught up in the whole Malik Monk thing, right, where when he was drafted, that was the thing about Malik, was that he was going to be able to help right away, where it took serious seasoning for him to be an impact player. Whereas Brandon, is this going to be someone that helps, or are we going to hold it against him if he comes out and shoots 34 or less % from 3? That's what's going to be interesting to see with the reaction coming through this year.
Okay, so with the number 2 overall pick, they went two-way play. They went length on the wing. They went, for that, traditional, what's become a traditional, like, super wing talent. Do you want them to double down in the rest of this draft? I mean, are you looking for similar players of Brandon Miller's ilk or build, or do you want them to explore other kind of player options?
Well, if you're going with a different archetype, if you're trying to go in the backcourt now, Marcus Sasser has been someone that a lot of people have really liked with that 27th pick, and maybe he falls a little bit more.
That
so
feels
he's
high.
going to be in that range.
That feels high, honestly.
You think 27 feels high for Sasser? Yeah,
Yes.
maybe. I mean, well,
Yes.
look, at that point, there's so many different opinions where you're not going to get too crazy with these draft boards, it seems like, but Sasser could be anywhere from the 27 to 40 range and just all over the place within that range, it seems to me. So, yeah, baby, the point being that the Hornets are going to have 4 chances to take them, right? Yeah. So we'll see if that happens. Somebody like a Colby Jones, just looking at the Hornets workouts, I know he can shoot, a little bit versatile there as well. Same with Julian Strother. So for me, what's interesting, maybe we didn't talk about it a ton, maybe as much as we should have, but Mitch Kupchak has told us how much he values the positional versatility all across the board.
Yeah.
And while Scoot is taller than what he was listed originally at 6'2", he is 6'4", he's not 6'9". He doesn't have the wingspan that Brandon Miller does. And you would say that sorry, somebody's saying goodbye. So you would have somebody like kind of rolling in from the 2 to 4 range. We know, yeah, Doug says bye. Doug says bye. Okay, sorry. Anyways, so yeah, you would have Brandon Miller through like the 2 to 4 range, whereas Scoot was pretty solidly going to be in the backcourt. And I do think Mitch Kupchak has valued that. Miles Bridges, P.J. Washington, LaMelo, backcourt player, but 6'7", right? You could envision him being this rangy type of basketball player. And so if you think of every single first-round pick outside of Mark Williams, who was pretty solidly stuck there at 5, everyone else has positional versatility.
Yeah, that would be a good final question to end on, Walker. Like, what do you think, if you had to predict, I mean, what do you think tipped the scale here in Brandon Miller's favor? Because, I mean, according to Shams, it was close. According to Woj, they've known it, since Brandon Miller came out of the womb.
According to Mitch, apparently, Mitch during his presser said Brandon was the favorite all along.
Yeah, real quick, Mitch said favorite all along. Also, they went back and forth. So, go.
Yeah.
Great.
By the way, shout out to.
That's what it is. I have no clue.
Yeah.
Who knows? The odds were changing crazy. We had Shams come in. Yes, he works for FanDuel, but I hope, maybe this is a little naive of me, I hope that he's not so reckless where he would just completely fabricate. I hope that there was some voice in that organization somewhere saying, no, they are still considering Scoot. Well, and the thing is, too, they did bring Scoot in for a second workout.
Yes.
We've seen Mitch Kupchak, the Kai Jones example comes to mind, where that was someone they liked. They brought him in for a second workout. They eventually traded up to go get him. So, not only, James Bouknight fell, maybe they didn't expect that, but they traded up to get Kai because they liked him so much. I believe 100% that Scoot was in this thing till very close to the end.
Yeah.
And Woj can say that it's always been Brandon.
Right.
But we also know from people that we trust out there in the world that these sources weren't coming from inside the house. These were coming from agents. These were coming from other people that might have some skin in the game as to who you want your team to draft. So I really do think that they were very undecided. I believe Mitch. Like, the thing about Mitch with this press availability stuff is, his messaging can be completely poor. But he tells the truth in a lot of scenarios, which is often a problem, but he's pretty damn truthful. And so I believe him when he said that we didn't really have a decision finally made. And that's why I think we got all the rumors going back and forth, snip, snap, Michael Scott style.
Okay. Go ahead. Nata.
By the way, Walker, do you want to know the funniest part about this whole thing? Is that they finally released the Brandon Miller workout footage as soon as after the pick was made.
That's it. I'm out of here. No, I'm done. I'm done.
Gracious.
Guess what? It's
Did they really?
phenomenal.
It's
phenomenal.
Is that anti-fan? How anti-fan is that, Doug?
It's
gotta be
trolling. They're trolling. This is trolling.
Like, shout out to them.
They know. They know they're out the door. They're walking out the door and they're trolling. This is incredible. Hey, Walker, before you go, do you want to do an eBay Motors ad real quick? Can you do
what can I do at the top of my head? I know you can get great FanDuel odds right now. I do know that
if you're Shams, you can definitely get great FanDuel odds. If you're Shams,
you could get. There was a small snippet of the day, maybe like 2 hours, where you could get great odds on Brandon Miller being that second pick. I think guaranteed fit, whatever. eBay Motors, go check them out. They're great.
The Brandon Miller of eBay.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Walker.
It's gonna be great.
I think this is like when I took my daughter to daycare for the first day. It didn't hit me at first, but when I got back home, it hit me. It's starting to like just slowly. It's like the time that I ate that hot chip on the air. It didn't hit me immediately, but when I started to try to break down a Miami Heat post game, I thought I was going to die, and I chugged a whole thing of buttermilk. That's what I'm going through right now. It's just slowly hitting me what has occurred. But Walker, we appreciate your insights. We'll see you in a few minutes. Drinks are on you. Thanks for joining us.
Where are we going, by the way? Did you want to tell the people?
Spectrum Center, dude.
We're going to Spectrum Center. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. I'll see you there, guys.
All right,
have me on.
See you, buddy. Oh, we're not telling Walker where we're going.
Oh, jeez.
But still, we will find a way to get his credit card.
You know, there were out of the top 5 picks, there were 4 that were non-college USA picks.
Mm-hmm. And the only one.
There was one that did go to college.
Well, who made that pick?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Did Michael Jordan make that pick?
So Doug, to your point, like I think there is an adjustment going on, and I think to me the split this whole time evidenced that, because you had so many guys in the NBA supposedly that had Miller super high on their board or number 2, and then you seem to have scouts, draft guys, people in the media who had Scoot number 2 with a bullet. And so there seems to be some adjustment going on, and I just hope with the new leadership in place in Charlotte, they get some scouting, get some development, get some weight training, get some of that
new blood in the
thinking in the building. Because obviously, to your point, Doug, people are getting to the NBA in other ways than college. And that's not going to stop. College basketball is, in a bit of an upheaval. Nata, you know more than anyone. So people are still going to come from college, obviously, but they're going to have to get on board with this new wave. And, we'll see how this works out. Certainly the Scoot fans were more vocal than the Brandon Miller fans. And we'll see how it plays out down the line. But I think that's a big piece of this. And I just don't know that they were ready to take that leap, on a G League guy.
I will, I hate being the defender of this, but
no, good.
The one thing I think we got to remember with all of this is the closest thing to an NBA pro offense that was run in college was Alabama.
Yep.
And a lot of the concepts,
how many championships did Alabama win last year? I'll give you a hint. It was 0.
They won the SEC championship.
Well, national championships. The ones that matter. Conference championships don't matter. It's like winning an Eastern Conference MVP. That doesn't matter.
Well, it matters. It
Who won
matters
the
a
ring?
little bit. But
Who won
I do think that with the way that team was built, the responsibilities that Brandon Miller was asked to do, I think we really do have to wonder if that is going to help him going forward. Now, Nate Oates knows nothing about structure from a personal accountability standpoint, but the man can structure an offense. I think that part matters when we start talking about this.
Yeah, Michael Jordan and Mitch Kupchak have left the new owners quite a bit of PR to clean up.
Oh yeah,
I mean they've got a tall task in front of them. Let me do some cleanup of my own. Got to tell you about eBay Motors. They have been a part of our show for a long time. Supporting them means you're supporting the show. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors with eBay Guaranteed Fit. You can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and then look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. You know who was confident? Scoot Henderson. Scoot Henderson was confident. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Okay, so we're going to do a lot of reaction to everything that happens on draft night coming up over the next few days. I think Walker and I are going to huddle up tomorrow before I leave town and talk about everything that happened tonight. But I can't leave here without revealing our 27 big board that I made you guys fill out. I don't want to give you guys homework and not actually show this. So we can talk a little 27. We can talk a little sleeper second round. Let's go ahead and go to the screen share that we've set up here to reveal our number 27 big board. And you guys can give me the thumbs up when we have it. the screen share. We'll show these names here.
Yeah.
For number 27, we actually have some disagreement at the top of the big board. Okay, great. So,
let me just say that is in no particular order.
oh my God. It's a big board. How can it know it's not? This is not a charcuterie board. This is not a sandwich board.
Actually, no. I'm good with my one. I'm good with my one.
Yeah, I was about to say you should be good with your one.
All right, you both.
Actually, I'm two.
Well,
no. Okay, sorry, Doug. I interrupted you. Go ahead. Go back.
Well, you both agree on Dariq Whitehead as number 1 on your number 27
now.
big board.
Especially now.
Why Dariq Whitehead?
Because I think the one thing about him that I loved was that his jump shot was much improved from the high school stuff that we saw. He hit jumpers at a really good rate on a bad foot. Now, the thing that probably will give you a little bit of pause, he's not going to be ready for Summer League. He might not be ready. He's a guy that's going to Greensboro. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. But in terms of a player, he's a top 10. He was going to be a top 10 talent. The only reason that he's this far down is probably because of his foot. And I think that's the kind of open box special, if you're looking to fill out your wings with talented guys, that you absolutely have to draft if they're there at 27.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I mean, the injury knocked him down for sure. But I think, to Nata's point, he probably won't be ready. But I think the Hornets can afford to deal with that, to be honest with you. I mean, at this point, they can afford to add a guy that was a super high recruit and who can fill it up, and just did not show enough at Duke. Now, that's a problem, because if he didn't play much college, how would they know how he plays? So we'll have to see how that plays out. But I think he would be a great addition if he's there at 27. I think that's a swing. I mean, that's a swing you take on a guy who, if he's healthy, is going to be a huge piece.
And that's really the call, right? Do you take if you're going to make the 27th pick, do you take a big swing, or do you go with someone safer? You've got 3 early second round picks that you could utilize as well. But honestly, I think whatever picks they end up using later in this draft, I don't think they should take a swing, and here's why. They've taken a few over the past couple of years, and with Bouknight
Vernon Carey.
Well, I'm thinking Kai Jones specifically. Yeah. That was a big swing, and so far it hasn't worked out. I think this team could stand to take some safer bets like a Strother. I don't think Jaime Jaquez is going to make it to 27, but he's at the top of my big board because it seems like the Heat want him. And I just think the Hornets should make a rule that if the Heat want a guy, you should just find a way to find the guy that the Heat want. Omax Prosper is another guy, again, that I think can, obviously some questions around the shooting, but you just added Brandon Miller, the best shooter in the draft. So I think you could get a little safer, go with a guy in Omax Prosper who can give you a little bit more defense, but is, I think, one of the safer picks. You guys didn't have Chris Murray on your number 27.
I don't think Chris Murray is getting there. I don't think he's past Sacramento, honestly.
My big board is just a dream board. It's just like one of those vision boards.
Like, that's the thing. I don't think Chris Murray's there. I do like your idea on number 5, use it to trade Terry.
Yeah, that's on my big board. Forget taking a player, just package it. Yeah. And I will be sad if they trade Terry Rozier. Let me make that clear, because I loved watching Terry play. I love Scary Terry. I love the Scary Terry shuffle, getting into the corner and knocking down a big 3. He had several exciting, despite the struggles last season, he still accounted for a couple of wins and a couple of almost wins for the Charlotte Hornets last season. And it will be sad if they do move on from him, because he was an exciting player to watch.
Yeah, I think guys like Ben Shepherd, Sasser, Keontae George, especially now that they did not go with Scoot in the backcourt there, could be interesting. But yeah, Jaime Jaquez, just to have an adult in the room, right?
Have a guy, an emotionally mature rookie, to be in that room for the younger guys. That does make sense. Where are you guys at on Jordan Walsh? Arkansas guy. I think, I think he is one of the better perimeter defenders in this draft. Comes out of the box, NBA caliber defender. The scoring is going to be an issue, but 27, we have to start assuming, is Greensboro bound no matter what. It's going to be a hard road to earn minutes with this team. So
I'll tell you where I am on Jordan Walsh. I've been watching Scoot Henderson highlights for the past.
It's okay. It's okay.
That's why we brought you on. You're the Eye on Basketball podcast producer.
I think he just missed my my big board here at 27. It may have been an alphabetical thing, but he just missed it. But yeah, I think maybe looking for a little more upside or a little more proven offense at 27. But the end of this draft and like where this pick starts to the end of the second round, there's guys that could go. It seems like either spot. You know what I mean?
So David, I would ask you, because I know you were at the what was it, the Jordan Classic last year?
Yes.
So Jet Howard or Keontae George, if they're there. Because we were there in the building.
I have Keontae George.
And Jet Howard was the best pro by far that night. I think Jet Howard is kind of underrated.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to double up on shooting, I think Jet Howard's a guy, if he's there, you absolutely have to draft.
Okay, let's move on to some sleepers in the second round. Some of us didn't fill this whole thing out because we were watching Scoot Henderson highlights for a month.
I was watching Brandon.
I went all the way. I think I tried to add a line.
David overachieved here.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Okay, so second round sleepers. David, we'll start with you since you filled the list out in its entirety. Terquavion Smith.
Yes.
NC State, what do you like?
Farmville Central's own Terquavion Smith, North Carolina High School Player of the Year as a sophomore, I believe. Super streaky. But a shooter and can fill it up. Would have to fill out a little bit more too. But I was thinking maybe a Book Knight replacement. But I think all of these guys, all of my guys here, are going to be two-way.
Doesn't it kind of feel like we may see Book Knight find a new home tonight too? It kind of feels like that.
Could be. Especially, I would say it's the more picks they use, the more in danger he is.
Yeah,
because he goes further down. The development slide. You have Imani, is it Emini or Imani Bates?
Imani. Can we be honest about it again? Can we be honest about?
I know
Imani
the play.
Bates?
I mean, I'm familiar with the player's game. I mean, he was supposed to be the next Kevin Durant, and all of a sudden wasn't. And now he's a great offensive player. Can't play any defense at all.
He's smooth and can create offense, and that's about it. He might be on some of these big boards just on name alone. As crazy as it sounds.
It's kind of that. And also, if you think Brandon Miller needs to gain weight, Imani Bates is worse.
Yeah.
I think he's a guy I would not be surprised if the Hornets brought in as one of those like undrafted free agents and shows up in Vegas. I think he's gonna be on this roster. I just think it's either 41 or he's not going to get drafted and they'd sign him.
I like Ryan Rupert if he makes it into that zone. If nobody takes a chance on him, he's a guy from the New Zealand Breakers. Going back to the well, they got LaMelo Ball. They plucked him out of Australia. Why not go back to the outback into that part of the world? Ryan Rupert's super lengthy. And another big that I like is Colin Castleton. I mean, the guy's just
very strong shot blocker.
Right,
very good shot blocker.
Body ready. Feels like. I know the percentages don't match up, but feels like a Walker Kessler light,
Yeah.
I mean, but I just feel like his body is right. Like if you needed a little bit of support, I said this early in the show, I think they still need to look at big, whether that's in free agency coming up. They need to shore that up because you're one injury away from finding yourself in the exact same position you've been in for the past decade, which is nobody reliable down low.
Yeah, that is... I think I agree with you on Colin Castleton, but I would also counter you with James Nagy, who played for Barcelona this year, also has a pro-ready body, also has a ridiculously long wingspan. I think is one of those two guys, if they're there, because I do agree with you. I don't think Kai Jones is ready for center minutes. But if you're having...
I don't think he's ever going to be ready for center minutes.
One can hope. But the big thing about James Nagy... pro-ready body, has seen some pro minutes. I think he's going to slide in there regardless, and I think he's going to do very, very well. So James Nagy is another guy, but you're probably going to have to draft him closer to use one of those earlier second-rounders to get there.
I think I just bagged my production team there on the screen share. I apologize.
Oh, boy.
I apologize, Liz. I failed you. I told you you're the smartest, most talented person by default that has ever worked on the show, and I just proved it to you there. So there are our second round sleepers. We got some number 27 action. We'll find out what happens in this draft, and we're going to do a show tomorrow to recap it all. This has been fantastic, guys. I really appreciate you stepping in, helping us out. Final thoughts, going to toss it to each of you. How are you feeling? How should Hornets fans be feeling? Is it safe to go to Spectrum Center?
I mean, sadly, I don't think any of us are too surprised based on how things have gone in the past. I just think, we talked about how much we saw out of the Scoot Henderson PR machine, the team that was doing so much messaging prior to the draft. The Hornets are going to have to kick that into overdrive a little bit, I think. And if for no other reason than to shield him a little bit, hopefully Hornets fans will chill out and welcome this guy in, realize what he can bring to the table. Well, hopefully, by the time we get to, I don't know about tomorrow, but by the time we get to the regular season, I do think he will make the team better. But I would like to see, if for no other reason, Doug, and not at y'all's point, do some fan-friendly stuff. Start speaking to the fans more. Let us know why this is going to be successful. Help him with that transition. As they do with any player, but this is going to be one that's under the microscope for a while, and I think they're going to keep an eye on Scoot, and it's just going to be a period of transition also, which is just a lot to undertake over the next season after we just had what basically amounted to a gap year. So
Nata, your Jet Howard dream just died.
Died.
I mean, well, obviously you just got proven right, because there was some NBA scouts that thought he was number 11 quality.
Wow.
Again, Jet Howard was the best pro I saw at the Jordan Classic, and I honestly his game is going to translate incredibly well, especially for those second generation players. It's kind of why I like Keontae George. But as far as final thoughts for this Hornets team, the work has honestly just begun. I don't think taking the temperature of this team off of one draft pick is going to help. I think that Brandon Miller is going to essentially just start off probably on the negative. It's on him to have a great summer league. It's on him to have a great training camp. It's going to be on him to come off the blocks firing, because if not, this is going to get ugly very, very quickly. But at the same point, this roster still needs a lot of work. We still need centers. We still need a backup point guard. There's a lot of this work that still isn't done yet. And I want to see what this team is going to look like 2-3 weeks down the line. And if they are really serious up there about getting to the playoffs, then I need you to show me the work, because right now it does feel incomplete. And I know the draft isn't over, but at some point you got to start showing us the work in the good faith.
You make an excellent point. This is only the beginning of this offseason. The Hornets do have a lot of work to do. They still need to make moves in the offseason to shore up this roster if they really expect to be competitive for a playoff spot. Not a play-in spot, but a playoff spot. And I think at this point, that's where fan expectations are. They're done with play-in. They're done with getting blown out in the play-in. They're done with draft picks that don't pan out. And I think it's going to be a little unfair for Brandon Miller because I think the amount of slack that the Hornets fans will cut him will be low. But look, you just got drafted number 2 overall. They just invested a lot in you. And this is a franchise in flux, but it is a franchise that isn't completely devoid of talent. He didn't just join the Detroit Pistons. He didn't just join the Houston Rockets. I mean, there is talent on this team. Some things have to come together. But, if Brandon Miller comes in and impacts winning in a similar way that we saw LaMelo Ball impact winning, and there were a lot of people that questioned the LaMelo Ball pick. Yeah. He has his fan base, but there were a lot of people that were going, I don't know if this is going to work out. Look at that shot. I don't know if he can shoot. There were a lot of questions. And LaMelo, while he didn't start immediately, he started to answer questions immediately, right? I mean, we saw it very quickly, like, whoa, this guy jumps off the page. We shouldn't hold Brandon Miller to less of a standard than we held LaMelo Ball to.
Absolutely not.
No, he needs to. It doesn't mean he needs to be an all-star player his rookie year. It doesn't mean he needs to win Rookie of the Year like LaMelo did. But it does mean that he needs to impact winning for the Charlotte Hornets next season. I think that's the expectation. And at this point, he's the pick. And I think Hornets fans, you have to let us Scooters mourn for a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's time to come together.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. We got to unite. We got to stop the violence. We got to stop the violence. But something that you just said, Doug, about expectations. Yeah. I'll be real with you. If Brandon Miller isn't at least second all rookie next year, it's fair to start the questions.
Well, it can't be a Mark Williams situation where he's not playing for, I mean, he has to be given the opportunity.
Like injuries aside, though, if he plays 60, 65 games and he's not at least second all rookie,
how about a Rising Stars appearance? I mean,
Well, I think that's honestly, I think that's probably given. I think that's given.
Yeah,
I do think that's given, but I do think that if Brandon Miller doesn't do that, I think it's fair to release the Hounds.
All right. Well, this has been an amazing show. I really appreciate everyone that was on the chat. And you guys, I mean, you just really came in and lit it up. There's a lot of emotion in this chat right now. Some of the words that have been shared in this chat, I can't share I'm
almost afraid to look at this.
Yeah, we'll lose the ability to sponsor this show. I think there's a lot of emotion right now. We'll see how this draft develops. I mean, I think, if they make a significant trade, that fans feel like is a positive move for the organization overall, at least from a contract money freeing perspective that a new ownership group could come in and take advantage of, or from a talent perspective, if they add serious talent, with some kind of trade, I think that will color this draft in a way that if they do nothing, which has been the norm in terms of their ability to trade, then I think it's going to be even more of a spotlight put on this number 2 overall selection. But we've got a lot more to say. Walker will rejoin me tomorrow. Thanks so much to David Walker, to Nata Edwards, to the amazing crew here at Everybody Studios. One more time, if you want to book that consult, make sure you head on over to everybodystudios.com. That's EVRYBDY studios.com. Thank you so much for tuning in for David and for Nata and for Nick Carboni and for Walker. I'm Doug Branson saying, go Hornets, go America. We'll all get through this together. Let's swarm Charlotte.